好，大家好，今天非常荣幸邀请到黄慧玲教授来到东吴跟大家谈绘本。黄教授目前是任职于云林科技大学另外系。那但是除了教授之外，他其实还有身份是所谓的绘本作者。他曾经担任童书作家、就是童书作家、插画家协会台湾区的理事长，现任台湾儿童文学理事长。自从2010年以来，他已经出版10几本绘本，获得许多的奖项。黄教授之所以投入绘本的创作是，有一个非常令人感动的一个故事。他在第一份教学的工作是在西林国小，在花莲的西林国小。那里主要是太鲁阁族所在的地区。作为一名汉人老师，他却深刻的体会到，就是原住民对于他们的族语还有传统文化流失的无奈。所以在他完成博士学位，而且在世界各地游历了一圈之后，回到台湾任教。后来他就是回到西林国小，跟当地的师生一起创作出太鲁阁族语和英语的双语绘本。那其中一本就是《Where is My Mom》，甚至得到就是德国白乌鸦文学奖的殊荣。黄教授用他非常丰富的创作力跟教学的热情投入绘本的出版跟创作。那不过让我特别佩服的地方是，就是他不只是透过绘本来教英文，而是把在地的故事融入在创作当中。所以这10几年来，黄教授结合地方的特色、故事行销，创造出一本又一本深具意义的绘本，像是介绍云林当地木雕技艺的跟阿公做木雕，还有旧棉被店的老街上的东东生。另外就是500年后谈的是斗六一棵老枫香树的故事。那该书也获得了非常多的奖项。那这本书也是我个人特别想读的，因为我很喜欢树，然后枫香也是我很喜欢的树种。那在这边我就不再占用大家的时间，那我们用掌声欢迎黄慧玲教授。谢谢主任 ，Thank you.
I'm supposed to deliver the speech in English. So, well, first of all, thank you for having me. And so let me briefly introduce about myself, the books that I've published, although the chairperson has already introduced some. But I want you to see the cover so you can have more feelings or ideas about it. And I have the link, please. Who is in the link? Yes. Go to my picture books. On the panel here, the upper part, do you see my picture book? Yeah, this one. Please click on this one. This one, yes, thank you. So these are books that I have produced for the Liu Books Library or the Liu City. We kind of go back to find the lost buildings, for example, this one, the lost people, okay, and the dying industry, like this, computer making factory. And recently they opened a river called Yulingxi, because Yulingxi have been covered for, I don't know, as long as people can remember. But now they want to open it, because every beautiful city has a beautiful river. That's how the idea kind of brought in to reconstruct the city landscape. And that's how they're doing now. So I want to go back to the old day of Yulingxi, where it's a big playground for kids. And nowadays, it's been covered, and then they will be open. So we don't know what the future will be, but hopefully it will create more memories in the future.
各位在场的观众以及线上的观众，大家好！很高兴受到东吴大学的邀请，要来到这边演讲。那首先我就会先从我自己稍微介绍一下自己。那我想要先从我的著作开始跟各位分享。那这边可以看到，在网站上可以看到我的绘本这个区域呢，其实可以看到有很多我的著作。第一个就是所谓的你上次的3层楼。这本绘本呢，它其实是以在斗六当地的一些即将失传的产业，还有一些老旧的建筑为主来进行创作。而在下面呢，可以看到像是老街上的叮咚声，还有云林溪还记得这2本书，都是以斗六在地的文化。那特别云林溪还记得这本书是以当地的云林溪为创作的主要 想法来回顾一下当时在云林溪附近的一些回忆。现在有很多的当时旧时还是一些游乐场的部分，现在都已经消失不见了。我们不确定未来这块区域会变得如何，那我只希望能够透过绘本来保留跟在地相关的一些文化。
Okay, great. I'm not from Yunnan. Originally, I'm from Taichung. That's because my teaching job is in Yunnan. And that's why I started to develop this kind of interest in the surrounding. Most people, when they go to Yunnan, particularly kids from Taipei, they just go there and study, but they never know the environment. So they only know two places, the station and the university. They go between, and then what happened around that, it seems like they don't care. But when you really, you want to take a root in a place, you have to know the people, you have to know the place, and you have to know the history that's the city has been going through. And as a professor from the humanities, I think this is what I care most. So I will try to get to know more about the history of the place and try to keep some memories for them through picture books, which is what I'm good at.
那其实我不是云林人，我其实是台中人。那我现在目前在云林任教，而我现在非常致力于想要保留云林当地的文化，因为其实很多从台北来的学生，他们如果来到云林科技大学的话，他们其实只知道云林火车站以及云林科大，他们也是他们所就读的大学，其他的地方他们完全不认识。但我认为，如果要了解一座城市的话，其实非常重要的是要了解当地的人文，还有当地的一些地景以及这个城市的历史。那身为一个人文科系的教授，我觉得这是我非常关注的一个面向。我希望能够透过绘本来保留云林当地的一些历史，并且保留在当地的一些美好的回忆。
So can we go back to DVD? I don't know who's controlling this. Who am I? Yes. Okay. Thank you. So let's start our topic today. What exactly are picture books? Now, this is a very brief definition. Now, what do you know about picture books? A lot of people told me, okay, as long as there are pictures and there's story, and you put them together, then they're picture books. The picture book is a specific genre, okay, that have a specific format. For example, always a standard picture book, 32 pages. Why 32, you may ask? Because the printing paper from the printing house, they can print 8 pages at a time. So if you go over 8 pages, the publishing houses, it will cost them more to produce a picture book. So 32 pages is quite a standard. Of course, you can extend it, make it longer, like 48, or make it shorter for like baby books. Yeah, but it's 32 pages, and the pictures have to tell story more than the words. So a lot of people say manga, for example, comics. Are they picture books? I know this generation, you grow up with manga or comics. Do you think they are picture books? Not really, at least for me, even though the borderline between picture books and manga is getting blurry. Because yes, we can see they kind of borrow each other's techniques. But picture books, they relied on 32 pages to create a theater. I would say a theater. Because it doesn't matter how big the idea you wanted to say, it's only limited in 32 pages. Whereas manga, you rely on characters, on dialogues, on setting to move the storyline. So you are following the character, you are following their dialogues, but the artistic level is not that idiosyncratic. I don't know whether you know this word. Like every illustrator, they want to have different artistic style presented in their picture books. So at least there are some basic elements which are different. Kind of set the difference between picture books and comics. Okay.
我们就回到 PPT 这边。首先，我想要对于绘本这个特别的种类 稍微提一下。那不知道大家对于绘本的定义是什么？我个人认为，其实绘本有一个很基本的定义，就是它必须要有图片，同时也必须要有故事。但这并不代表说只要有图片、有故事就等于是绘本，因为其实绘本有一个非常算是成文的规定，就是大部分的绘本都是在32页左右。那为什么会是32页呢？因为其实印刷厂它们一次能够印的页数就是大约8页，而如果你要知道绘本的页数比较多的话，那他们就会需要花费更多的钱来印制这些绘本。所以其实32页是大多数绘本固定会有的页数。当然你也可以做比较长一点的绘本，比如说有48页或是页数比较小的页本的绘本，那这样的话就会是比较给一些幼儿来读的。而我个人认为绘本有一个很重要的地方，就是它的故事内容是远远的，故事内容所代表的意义是远远超越它文字所表达出来的。举例来说，大家会认为漫画跟绘本是同种种类嘛？其实我认为是不尽然的，因为其实漫画虽然有非常多的图片，但其实它还要有很多的一些角色对话，很多文字才能够把它的故事说出来。但是因为绘本它的页数非常的少，在32页内，他们就必须要表现出一种把观众好像带入看完一场电影的感觉，所以他们必须要在有限的页数内传达一个很核心的概念。那这样的话，其实我认为它跟漫画就是不太一样的种类。
Okay. So when you read a picture book, you have to decipher the visual codes that the illustrator inscribed in the pictures, because they deliberately create something in the picture. But when you see a picture, you probably just it's like a snapshot. You take a picture, but you don't really look into the details. And if you miss the details, you miss the fun. Because reading picture book is like a decoding game, you know. You kind of break the code. You kind of crack the code. You feel this satisfaction or enjoyment of reading it because you know the detail that most people don't pay attention. So I have a strong idea that when you see a picture, it doesn't mean that you can read a picture. Okay, it's really important ability that nowadays, as the information that you can get your hands on is getting more and more visual. So do you really read, or do you just have a glance and that's it? Do you really think about why people project pictures like that? Why they create pictures like that? You know, if you don't think about that, you can easily be manipulated by the visual effect that they try to put on you.
好，所以我们会知道，其实绘本里面含图片，而我们身为一个绘本阅读者，最重要的就是要把这图片其中的意义把它解码出来，并且去了解这些图片中的意义是什么。所以其实图片很常我们都会以为它只是简单的一张图，那我们不太会去注意到一些细节。但我们在阅读绘本的时候，其实就好像在玩一种解码游戏一样。所以我如果可以解读出这个绘本的图片中作者想要传达的意义的话，其实我们就会得到一种可能阅读的快乐，或者是从中得到一些启发等等。如果你有办法注意到这些图片中的人没有注意到的细节的话，其实你就会懂得阅读绘本的快乐。而我个人认为，其实看一张图跟读懂一张图其实是完全不一样的事情。在现今的时代，我们越来越习惯透过图像的方式来接受讯息，但我们真的有读懂这张图片想要传达给我们的讯息吗？还是我们就只是看一眼，然后被它表象的意义所就是注意力被它给吸走了呢？如果我们没有办法解读这张图片，产生一些我们自己的想法的话，我们的心智很容易就会被别人带着走。
Good, very good. So, for example, the first example I want to show you, reading picture books are making connection. It's a connection between readers. So, originally, for picture books, is parents holding their baby, they read a picture book to them. So the parents reading our text, but the kids, because they cannot read at that time, they pay attention to the picture. So it's a connection between the reader and the listener. Okay, it's very important. And then it's a connection between words, pictures, and reader. Because mom has to read out of something. Okay, let's pretend it's a mom, or father is also important. But let's pretend it's a mommy, okay, holding a baby, reading out a picture book. And of course the mom has to understand what the picture trying to say, what the story trying to say. So again, the readers connected to the text and to the picture. Kids, they don't understand words, but they can see picture. And then when they try to listen to what mom has to say, by matching what they listen to what they see, they can make sense of the story. And that's the early step of literacy development.
好，所以我们知道要念读懂绘本这件事情，其实是很多不同的，需要很多不同的人来合作。比如说，我们可以看到在这一张图片里面，可以看到有一个妈妈抱着小朋友，那她在念绘本给小朋友听。其实在这个角色图中，妈妈就是这个念书的人，而小孩子则是聆听者。妈妈可能会去了解绘本中图片的意义代表是什么，作者可能想要传达什么讯息。那小孩子他们看不懂文字，但是他们看得懂图片，所以他们就在透过看图片的方式，同时听妈妈在讲故事。那透过这样子相互影响的状况下呢，他们就有办法从中理解这本绘本可能想要说出的意义是什么。那透过这样简单的一个过程呢，其实就是很初期的对小孩子开始有一些识读的能力。
So now here's the story that I created for English learners. You know, Taiwan's English learners in Taiwan, we read those with teacher books or textbook imported from England. Okay, they pretty much dominated the market. But can we create our own reading materials for our kids? And so I've been thinking about this question. And I think, well, if picture books can come into play, like the text, I'll make the text very simple, but the pictures a little bit complicated, so you can talk more about the picture book. And you can have more interaction between the teacher and the learner. So let's watch this thing. Seems like
A shoe story. One day, left sneaker and right sneaker wanted to take a walk. Left, right, left, right, left, right. But something strange happened. Left sneaker suddenly disappeared.
Is he playing hide and seek? I will go look for him. Hello, I'm a sneaker. I'm looking for my left sneaker. Have you seen it?
No, and I'm a slipper. I don't like sneakers. Go away.
Oh, okay. Hello, I'm a sneaker. I'm looking for my left sneaker. Have you seen it?
No, and I'm a gray boot. I don't like sneakers. Go away.
Okay. Hello, I'm a sneaker. I'm looking for my left sneaker. Have you seen it? Let me see. I think I've seen it somewhere. Really? Where? Follow me. Okay.
Right sneaker finally found left sneaker, but they can't take a walk anymore.
So what do you think this story trying to say or trying to teach? Now that's separated into English level. For example, the key points I want to teach through this story. The English phrases. It's been repeated over and over again. Have you seen it? I'm looking for something. Have you seen it? Because I think language learning is not learning keywords, it's learning phrases. It's learning short sentences. So I was trying to teach that, but I want to make it more interesting. So can you play the PDF of the shoe story? In my folder, there's a file called the shoe story PDF.
有一个 file 叫 PDF Shoe Story, and it's PDF file. I have the sound right. The file in yeah. So let's see, yes, the shoe story. So now we're going to break it down page by page, okay? So you can have a look about what kind of code, the secret code I tried to put in the pictures. So here's a sneaker. Okay, yeah. So one day left sneaker and right sneaker wanted to take a walk. Because I want to teach the concept left and right. Okay, and then go on. Next page. Do you know why left suddenly disappeared? If you really pay attention, if you have visual literacy, you should know. Do you know why one of the shoes suddenly disappeared? Next page, please. Do you see something? So you can always come back to talk about the story. What happened? Do you see a pair of eyes, evil-looking eyes, hiding behind? But something strange happened. Because that shoe, this shoe, is taken by something. Okay, next page. Left sneaker suddenly disappeared because it was taken. The next one. Is he playing hide and seek? And I'll go look for it. Okay, go on. Now the sleeper. Have you ever wondered why all the shoes he asks always have one? Not two. Because the other one are also taken. So you only see the answer. Go on, next one. So go away. So kind of grumpy sleep. Grumpy sleeper, grumpy rain boots. Next one. Okay, so you can see it's keeps looking, but he couldn't find it, and all the shoes only have one left. Go on. But now this cat comes. Now the cat looks a little bit lazy, kind of harmless, but really, go on. Let's see. Let me see, I think I've seen somewhere. So the cat deliberately leading the shoe to something dangerous. All right, next one. Follow me. See all these shoes sitting behind. If you look at their facial expression, what does that tell you? Yeah, they're like, okay, you don't know what you're getting into. Huh? So you can see the expression, you can see the way they look at the cat. It's not like they're really concerned. They don't want to say anything. Okay, so the next one. Right sneaker finally finds the left sneaker. And then he ran away. Oh no, because the dog took them off. So that's the visual cue or visual codes I'm talking about. Illustrator, even a simple story like that, they want to hide something for the reader to find. And if you cannot find, if you can find those small details, it's just like a simple story. You don't see the fun. You don't get to talk more with the people who also read the story. And we want to create more communication between the readers and the listener. So the more they can talk about the pictures, the better. That's the intention of making this kind of picture. Go on.
享我们这一个另外一个例子，在这个故事里面呢，我们可以在图片里面隐藏了很多讯息。首先就是球鞋，他要找他自己的伙伴，看他们有左脚跟右脚。那这边我们故事发展的情节就是左脚这双鞋不见了，那我们就透过左右这个概念，然后你可以看到图片上面后面有一个很邪恶的眼睛，隐藏在黑暗中。那我们就可以猜到这个鞋子可能是被什么东西抓走的。那一开始右脚在找左脚的时候，让他碰到其他的球鞋和雨鞋这两个脾气比较不好的人。最后他碰到一只猫，那猫就说：“我知道你的伙伴在哪里。”然后就带他到别的地方。那你可以看到背景，另外两只鞋它们有一点点事不关己的样子。然后就故意把它带到一个这个危险的地方。那最后我们终于知道为什么这些鞋都只剩本来成双成对，但是现在都只剩下一只脚。那我们就看到原来是一只狗，都把它们抓住。那所以透过这些视觉上的一些小点子，那我们可能可以藏一些讯息，增加你觉得在阅读时候的趣味性。然后也可以用很简单的句子来说更复杂、更生动的故事。
Okay, so the last page. I want to go to the last page. The last page is actually the book back, the back cover. This one. Yeah, this one. So you can see there's no words on this page. Red. Look at the cat. Now he's looking at his new pair of shoes. Now this kind of pair of high heels, it looks very like, what's going on here? So what do you think the cat is thinking? What do you think it's thinking? Okay, fresh meat. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna, you're gonna end up like all those shoes. And so you can have a very interesting, that's what I say, it's almost like a game, because you can decode. You can crack the codes of this illustrator. You get so much fun when reading the story. Okay.
我们看到最后一页，我们看到就是这一只猫。这一页完全没有任何的文字，但是我们从猫的表情，你看它就眼睛盯着这双新的鞋是一双高跟鞋。那你们觉得这只猫现在在想什么呢？你从它的表情可能说，哇，又有新的玩物了。那这双鞋最后的下场呢，就跟前面的那几双一样。所以，如果你能透过这些小细节来分析，绘读者他的动力的话，那这个故事就会变得更加有趣。
So that's my dream, sort of my dream. We can create picture books for English story, but each story, every story is so interesting that kids want to talk about. They can just naturally open their mouth because they want to say something. But the picture books so far, now they are produced for native speakers. So the vocabulary sometimes the level is too difficult, and the cultural background is not familiar with that. So we don't get to see really, we don't have this close connection with what we read as an English learner. So my dream is I want to create more of these kind of picture books for English learning.
我的目的，我的梦想呢，就是能为台湾的学英文的学生，他们创造适合他们的一些教材。我们从国外引进的这些教材呢，他们当然是就为英语、母语的那些孩子所来创造的。那他们的词汇啦，或者是文化背景，相对来说就对台湾的学生比较陌生。所以，如果我们以台湾的学生的出发角度做这些绘本的话，那他们就可以跟故事的内容有更深刻的连结。那同时呢，也能增进他们的兴趣，学习英语的兴趣。
So have you seen Landaiko in your textbook? Yeah, the Landaiko is part of our identity, right? You see people wearing a hypo all the time. And now you just don't see the in your book. You just change. So let's move on to the next one. Go back and do the key. So now I'm going to show you. I want to show you another example of how powerful picture books are. So, next page. Yeah. So the texts here are taken from this book, okay? Because you never read the book, I assume. If you did, please don't keep it secret. I took the words here. You just read the words without pictures. And I want to ask you, what's going through your head when you're reading your words, okay? So here, the first page. Look, a bird. Hello, bird. Shh. We have a plan. Keep going slowly. Keep going slowly. Now stop. Shh. Ready one, ready two, ready three, go. What's going on here? Anybody want to contribute your ideas? Want to ambush something? Okay, good. Ambush is word. Yeah. Now let's continue. The second one. Column there. Look, it's all pretty much the same as the first one. Look, up there. Hello, birdie. Shh, shh. We have fun. Climbing slowly, climbing slowly. Now stop. Shh. Ready one, ready two, ready three, go. So what's going on? Look, a bird. Look up there. Still, it looks like they're looking for something that you don't know. What they're looking for. Or ambush. Look, down there. Head over. Shh. We have a plan. Paddling slowly, paddling slowly. Now stop. Shh. Ready one, ready two, ready three, go. So you can see they have different actions. The first one is tiptoe. Then climbing slowly, then paddling slowly. So obviously, they're in three different places. And then the last one. Hello, birdie. Would you like some bread? 1, 2, 3, look. Ready one, ready two, ready. Run away. Look, a squirrel. Shh. We have fun. How much can you guess? It's like fragmental, entries of some story like you're having a dream, you have a chunk of this, a chunk of that, but somehow you just cannot piece them together into a story. Because there's no picture. So we're going to show you the original pictures, what the picture looks like, combined with the text.
再来，这一些文字是节录自我手上的这一本书。那这本书我们把它文字排列出来以后，如果不看图片的话，我们来猜猜看他们是在讲什么。那大家可以脑中想象一下。那从头看到尾呢，我们知道它虽然很类似，文字很类似，但是这些角色他们有过3种不同的动作。第一个就是轻声走过去，然后有爬，然后有滑脚的动作，所以我们可以知道他们在3个不同的地方，然后可能他们是想要偷袭，或者是要草草的接近某个东西。那当然，我们如果只看这个文字的话，感觉讯息非常的破碎，那就好像你在做梦一样这边很快，这边很快，那我们没有办法把它拼凑成一个完整的画面，因为我们没有绘本的图像。那现在我们就来看看绘本的内容。
Right. So now look at the picture. Here. familiar with the word. Can you go to the file of we have a plan PDF? So you can see the cover. It's by Chris Hawkins. It's a very Canadian, I believe, if I remember correctly. Canadian writer illustrator. So you can see the character. Finally, you see 4 characters. 1, 2, 3, and 1. And there's a little one down there. Can you scroll down 2 pages? Oh, no. Page by page, sorry. So you can see 4 characters. And by the way they dress themselves, what do you think they are up to? You can see the hats. They wear something very dark. Okay? So obviously they don't want people to see them clearly. So next page. Look, a bird. Now everything finally clear. Look, a bird. Who says so? This one. Look, a bird. Now they're holding this net in their hands. So obviously they're trying to catch something. Look, a bird. There's a bird here. That little one said, next page. Okay, so look, a bird. And this little one saying, hello, birdie. So the little one was a naive one. He didn't know what they're doing. So, hello, birdie. And this one says, shh. The second one says, shh. The third one says, we have a ride. Now everything's suddenly clear. Because now you have the character, you have the setting. Tick-tock, slowly. Tick-tock, slowly. And now, silence. Because they are approaching the bird here. Stop. Okay. Ready? 1. Now the bird looks like the birds look sideways, right? Ready? 1. Ready? 2. Ready? 3. So what are they ready for? They're ready to catch the bird. Then go on. But then the bird flies away. So they kind of tumble into each other. Okay? And that's how, with pictures, everything starts to make sense. That's why picture books are powerful. Pictures are more powerful than words. You have to read the picture. All right. Can you translate?
我们如果对着图片来看，首先看到封面就是由 Chris Hawkins，应该是一位加拿大的作家、插画家做的。那首先我们看到他这边有4个角色，那从4个角色的衣着，我们看到他们有戴着帽子，我们来猜他们这个作者。他们色彩衣服的色调也都是黑色，所以我们可以知道他们想要隐藏自己的行踪，不想被发现。那现在我们来看到下面的绘画。现在我们知道他们每个人手上都拿着一个网子，然后我们可以看到最矮小的那个角色，他看到一只鸟，他就向它打招呼，然后其他3个就分别说向他，然后第3位还跟他说我们已经计划好了，所以我们现在终于知道这个故事的内容，他们是想要去抓着鸟。那看到他这一张图片，他们垫着脚步让他们接近，然后最后他们正说1、2、3要准备抓的时候，鸟飞走了，所以他们就撞在所有人就撞在一起。所以我们就知道从图片来看，这个是一个很有趣、很强烈的印象给孩子。
So the storyline suddenly makes sense. Okay. 1, 2. So again, look up there, because the bird flew away. So now they're following the bird, and they see birds up there. The bird's here there. Look up there. Again, the little one. Hello, birdie. Shh, shh. We have a plan. So it's now the birds kind of stop and hibernate, so they have to go up there. So what's the plan to be? So you can talk with your listener or kids to go to them, ask them to guess, and they will be willing to. Well, they have a lot to say about the picture. So go on, let's move on. So that's how they manage to get up the tree. Climbing slowly. Now stop, because they are so close to the bird. I think the nest, they can reach the bird with the nest already. Ready 1, ready 2, ready 3. Do you think they can catch the bird? No, of course not, because the story continues. So go on. The bird again flies away, and all of them fall down from the tree. So the second sentence, of the story certainly makes sense. Go on, next one. So the story repeats itself. This is what we call circulative narrative. It's go on, go from the beginning and to the end, and the same pattern repeats itself. So look down there. Now the bird is not up there. It's not. Now it's down there. So now it looks like a swan. So we don't know. Again, the little ones say, "Hello, birdie." Have a plan. So these 3 spirit guys, they do have plans, but all the plans fail so far. So let's see. They say, you want to continue reading because you don't know what happened. So they paddle through the swamp. Paddling slowly. Now stop. Ready 1, ready 2, ready 3. See the story? The page always stops somewhere like when they're about to catch the bird. So you are encouraged to flip the page because you want to know what's going on. Go on. Now the bird flew away again, and they fall into the water. Okay.
那你可以看到，其实他们后来抓鸟到失败之后，他们又尝试了另外一次。那大家有没有猜猜看，他们第2个计划是什么呢？所以其实，在父母跟小孩子念丛书的过程中，他们就可以透过一些这种小小的桥段来问孩子们，想说，你觉得第2个计划会是什么呢？他们会用什么方式来抓鸟呢？那我们如果继续看下去的话，就会看到这4个小小的人物，他们就爬到树上，然后可能努力的爬上梯子，爬到树上之后，想要用网子来抓住这个小鸟。他们有成功吗？没有，因为他们后来这只鸟就飞走了。所以就可以发现说，其实这个故事它的桥段一直不断的在重复。那这个其实就是我们所谓的重复性的一些叙述方式，就是他们会透过一直不断的叙述同一个故事或桥段来加深孩子们的印象。那在第3个计划中呢，这只鸟就飞到了比较低的地方。那我们可以看到说，它好像停在一只树枝上。那这3个小人物呢，他们就划着他们的小船，想要再一次的去抓鸟。那也可以发现说，其实所有的故事绘本，他们每页的终结的地方都刚好落在他们即将要抓到鸟的那一刻，所以他们就会让可能读者或是念书的人，他们就会忍不住想要翻下一页，想要知道下一页故事接下来的剧情发展是什么。
So let's continue next page. So then the little one, this little one, is not really like into the situation. Suddenly he had an idea. Hello, birdie, would you like some bread? So he got an accidentally clever idea, offering some bread to the bird. And then guess what happened? If you offer some bread to the birds, guess what they will do? They will be doing. Have you ever seen birds? Never? That's why you have to go to YouTube. Because on my campus, you can just see birds walking past you. It's such a way. Anyone? Oh, yeah, okay. No. So you don't get the idea. So now he's offering the feed for some breadcrumbs to the bird. And then next one. And one bird came, not only one bird, 2 birds came, 3 birds came, and then more and more birds came. Next page. Look! So these 3 big guys, they are surprised. Next one. Because suddenly all the birds coming, they all want to get some breadcrumbs. Next one. And then they're supposed to be happy, right? Because suddenly all the birds just, within their touch. So they say, ready 1, ready 2, ready 3. Why the 3 is not finished? You have to look at the pictures. What happened to those birds? The birds all look at them and what? Very mean. If you are surrounded by hundreds of birds, I think you'll be terrified. It's like more moving. They're coming to get you. So suddenly they feel that they're in danger. Ready 1, ready 2, ready. And they're not being able to finish first.
好，那我们就来继续看，回到刚刚这一页，接下来这只小小的、比较小的这一只，它可能搞不太清楚状况，所以他就问了一只鸟说：“哎，你想要吃面包吗？”我不知道在场有没有观众是从云林来的。如果你是从云林来的话，就会知道说我们云科大学校园里面是有非常多的鸟。那我们如果要给鸟吃一些像谷物啊，或是面包的话，其实很多只鸟都会直接飞过来这样。所以在往下看的时候，就会看到说有一只鸟飞到这只小小的角色旁边啊，2只、3只。后来其他另外比较大的这3个角色呢，就说看啊，这个就说看啊，然后发现说很多只鸟都飞到这个比较小的角色的旁边。那其他的角色应该很开心吧，因为他们鸟不能飞到他们旁边了。但为什么他们说准备好了吗？1、2、3，3都还没有说完，为什么他们就跑走了呢？那如果你有过喂鸟的经验的话，就会知道说，其实鸟如果有很多只群在身边的话，它们其实是会非常凶悍的，而且也可以从图片中稍微看到说，其实鸟的眼神都已经开始变得比较凶悍了，所以它们甚至来不及喂鸟，甚至来不及抓鸟，它们就直接因为太害怕而跑走了。
The next page. See, run away. That's why they run away. Now they don't want any further. Next page. But then they don't give up. They want to catch something else. So still they're walking, trying to find the next target. Next one. Look, a squirrel. Do you think catching a squirrel is easier than catching a bird? It's not. So see, this kind of speculative narrative coming back to the original starting point. Only this time, it's not a bird, it's a squirrel. And kids love this kind of story structure because some of the plots are predictable. So when they're reading, the kids, they look at, I'm smart, I know what's going on next page. So they cannot wait to turn the page to finish the story. So we have fun and slowly the story ends.
好，我们可以看到这4只角色就跑走了。对，但是他们其实没有放弃哦，他们就想说有没有其他东西可以抓呢？所以我们就在路上不断的搜寻，看有没有下一个目标。那后来他们就最后一页就可以看到他们说，看啊，是一只松鼠。那不知道大家觉得抓松鼠会比抓鸟还要容易吗？我个人是认为应该是不会比较容易的。所以大家就可以看到这个故事，其实它一直不断重复出现一些固定的词汇，一些固定的桥段，这就是我们所谓的重复性叙事。它故事最终就会回到最开始的地方。那小孩子其实非常喜欢这种故事桥段跟情节，因为他们在某一个条件下是可以预测的，那孩子可能就可以知道说故事接下来的走向是什么，那他们也会忍不住想要继续翻页，想要继续看下去。
Now, look at the picture. It's bluish, right? And it's for, I don't know, dummies. They have really dummies. They look at the pictures here. I want to see, this is what we call end page. So in the beginning, it's a bird. It's not one bird before. There are many birds. So at the end paper, the squirrel. So if this kind of in the beginning, from the beginning to the end, the design of the picture is more pieces. So it's not randomly, I just put something there. No, they want you to, they they want to prepare you to read the story. So when you see the birds, sort of okay, prepare. They could be birds in the story. And when the story ends with a squirrel, and suddenly you will feel like, oh, it makes sense. Yeah, now next time is prepare the squirrel. So end paper, before end papers are just a paper to stick the cover with the pages. But nowadays you can find more and more picture books. They start storytelling with end papers. Okay. Now let's see the color hue. So the story happened during the daytime or at night. Night, yes, the colors tell you a lot of things. Bluish, it's darkish, and then you can see moons. You can see only the birds, the feathers, quite fresh, quite vivid. And then when they are feeding the birds, somehow, now I see the contrast. This part is blue, but how come this part is not blue? Don't you think it's not consistent? Well, if they are acting in the middle of the night, don't you think that throughout the page, it should have the same color scheme? Like this one blue and this one should be blue, right? This one blue and suddenly this one is not blue. Why? Blue again, not blue. Is that any particular arrangement from the illustrator? Now the birds. When the birds is encountering this little guy, the illustrator makes them very big and very clear. So you can see how they interact. When they're catching it, no color in the background. When the story is continue, bluish background, even shadow, trees shadows. Again, no color. That's what I call cracking the code. Why does an illustrator want to leave some pages without blue background? Anyone try to crack the code? Yes. More detail. What do you mean the tension of the story?
So like the illustrator or the illustrator and the storyteller here try to put like much attention on the certain thoughts. And want to put that tension so like speed up the storyline by using the bright and the contrast, the colors and the contrast.
Mm-hmm. Contrast, yes, very good point. Contrast, what's the effect the contrast will create? Yeah, you see the contrast, but why this kind of contrast has to be there? You need to create tension, contrast. Yeah, we can see contrast. Can you scroll down the pages? So we can see why some pages is blue background and some not. So let's start to go into the detail. What are the pages without background? Shh. Whenever they say shh, you have a plan. No background. Go on. We have a plan, no background. Ready? When they are catching the birds, and they fail, no background. Go on. Shh. Again, no background. When they're catching, no background. No background. No background color. particular scheme or plan from the illustrator?
Yes.
Yes.
When the focal point is given to that little main character, then the color changes. And then also the bars.
Bingo. Because this little guy thinks differently from other guys. So when it's on him, well, when it's there, the action, is about to fail. We have a plan, it's a stupid plan. But this little guy's no more. Like, I don't think so. When he's there, you can see clearly, like he has a clear head. But the other one kind of in the mud, they don't know what's going on, but they just want to catch something. Yeah. So let's go on to confirm her point. Okay, the little guys here, go on. I don't know if one of them. Yeah. So when they are doing stupid acts, a lot of background. But when they pause, try to do something a little bit with a little bit of brain, and you can see it's clear. Then go on up. Yeah, the little guy there. See, so that's the code, maybe this color scheme code. The illustrator wants you to see, but many people don't see it. Okay, when you go through the picture book, you can say picture. But you can look at the color, you can look at the composition, you can look at how they create the characters. There are a lot to talk about. And then when you really look into the detail, there's so much fun reading the same story.
好，那我们可以看到，其实这本书它从封面一开始就给我们很多讯息。在最封面这一开始的话，它其实是一只鸟。那如果我们看到封底的话，会看到其实封面的那只鸟就不见了，就变成了一只松鼠。所以其实我们就可以发现，在阅读绘本的时候，作者可能其实在你还没有翻开书以前，就试图想要把一些讯息传达给读者。那我们可以看到，除了图片之外，我们还可以看到颜色的部分。颜色其实我们可以看到整本书它都是以蓝白为基底，那我们可以知道说，可能这个故事是发生在晚上。我们可以看到，可能他们所穿的衣服都是很暗色系啊，或是蓝色系。那我们也可以看到，在一些图片中会有月亮的形象出现，只有鸟，还有一些比较关键时刻的时候会出现比较不一样的颜色。所以我们就可以看到说，其实颜色它也代表了很多不同的意义。那不知道大家有没有发现，其实在故事进行的途中，有时候背景不一定全都是蓝色的，有时候它的背景可能会突然变成白色。不知道有没有人发现说，这是不是作者刻意想要调整的呢？是不是作者想要强调些什么事情呢？我们后来就可以特别发现说，只要有这一个比较小只的这只角色出现的时候，所有的背景都会突然变成白色的。为什么就可以知道说，因为比较小的这个角色，它其实跟其他另外3只比较大的角色，它想的方式是比较不一样的。或许他的脑袋比较清楚，他的想法比较跟其他人不一样，所以每次只要有这个小角色做一些行动的时候，他的背景全部都会变成白色的。那你就可以知道说，或许他采取的一些行动才是真的是比较聪明的行动，而不是像其他3只说我们有一个计划，但是这些计划可能是行不通的。所以就可以发现说，其实颜色想要传达的概念跟其中隐含的讯息其实是非常足够的。如果我们没有看到的话，其实就会失去很多绘本想要从一些颜色啊、角色或是情节来传达给我们的一些意象或是概念。那我们同时也就失去了读绘本的乐趣。
Any questions so far? Now I want to give you another ultimate example. Now this picture book, the following picture book, I'm going to introduce this. I don't think it's for children. But every time I introduce that book, all my students are in awe. They were looking at the picture like speechless. Okay? Because he's the master of hiding the old, hiding some symbol into his picture. And this one is great master. Mine is called shorthand. You know? You don't know? Okay. So let's go to Red Tree. Red Tree. go? Yeah, just click on the arrow and go. So Sean Chen is Australian, writer and illustrator. He has this bilingual background because the mother is from Australia but the father is from Malaysia. So from a very early age, he told me he never felt fit in. Because I was talking to him, I was interviewing him for 2 hours. We're sitting down in father talking. And then it's a nice guy, such a nice guy, easy to talk to. And then just talking about how he feels like he never fit into the situation. So this book, now we're going to read it through. The Red Tree. Next page. So the page, you can see a girl. Okay? It's like talking to a megaphone. But then there's some letters dropping. So he's talking, she's talking, but it looks like nobody's listening. Nobody's around. And what she's talking doesn't make sense. Okay? And then you see the clock. An old grandpa clock. You don't see numbers. You see leaves. Okay, next page. Okay, now can you enlarge this a little bit? Make bigger. You make bigger. Yeah, too big. Thank you. Yeah. Oh, okay. The last slide. I want to go to the last slide again. So here you can see the same little girl again. And she's sitting on the bed. Sometimes the day begins with nothing to look forward to. And things go from bad to worse. But you can see black leaves coming from nowhere, filling up the room, kind of pushing her to get out. Next page. Darkness overwhelms. So here's a little girl. Yeah, kind of dark. This is possible we turn on the light. Or you can enlarge it so you can see it. If the girl is scared. You can see the girl here, but on top of her, you can see this gigantic deep sea creature overshadowed. The darkness overcomes you. Next page. Nobody understands. So nobody understands. Now here's a bottle. Somebody's sitting there with some diver's mask. So it's already in the bottle. Why do you need a mask? We don't know. Nobody understands. Next one. The world is a death machine. The girl, now there's a little girl, I don't know whether you can see her. She's kind of holding her head. And people around her, like, not like robots. They're walking without any expressions and then kind of robotic movements. Next one. Without sense or reason. It's a chaotic collage. You see paper he puts from news, maybe from some magazines, maybe from some post office letters, envelope stamps. So it's not put everything together there. So the text says without sense or reason. Let me stop reading the text.
然后另外一个例子，这个例子呢，我觉得其实不是这本童书不是给小朋友看的，但是每次我只要举完这个例子，我的学生们他们都会哑口无言的，里面隐含的讯息跟意象实在是太让他们惊讶了。那这本书它的作者是 Sean Chen， 那他其实是一个澳洲人，他的爸爸是马来西亚的华侨，那妈妈则是澳洲人。那他其实同时也是 童书的插画家以及创作者，他是有双语背景的，但他认为他其实不管是从小到大，他从来没有找到他自己的归属感。而我之前有访问过他2个小时，采访过他2个小时，那他告诉我，其实他这一生都找不到他自己的归属感这样子。那我们就看到图片，我们可以看到第1页里面，但是我们可以看到一个小女孩，可以移到第1页。我们可以看到一个小女孩，她拿着扬声器，好像在对谁说话。但我们可以看到，其实旁边她说的那些话都变成一些字，那可能掉到页面的外面，好像没有人在听一样。那第二个图片则是一个老旧的大钟，上面没有数字，只有一些叶子这样子。那在下一页的话，我们就可以看到一个小女孩，她坐在床上，那打开房门就有很多黑色的叶子从房间门口飞进来，好像要把她赶出她的房间一样。那在下一页的话呢，我们就可以看到小女孩她其实是站在这个地上，但是上面有一只很大的，好像深海鱼一样。那它的这个深海鱼的影子就全部笼罩在她身上。在下一页的话，我们可以看到说一个小女孩，她好像这边有一个，左手边这边有一个瓶子，那瓶子里面好像有一个潜水面罩。为什么你已经在瓶子里面了，但是还需要潜水面罩呢？大家可以稍微去想一下。那在下一页的话呢，你就可以看到，其实小女孩她是站在这边，她由上往下看，就可以看到其他很多人，他们虽然都在走来走去，但是很多人都很像机器人一样。所以你就可以再看到下一页的话，你可以看到这其实中间有很多的一些像是从一些新闻啊、报章杂志，或是一些邮票，或者是甚至是信封上面剪下来的字，很多图片上都有很多的文字，但是可以最清楚看到的文字是 without sense or reason， 就是没有任何理由或是原因。
So obviously the character cannot make sense of the word. Right? Sometimes you wait and 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 nothing ever happens. Then all your troubles come at once. This is the girl here. And all the ships crashing. You know, she's in the middle trying to survive. Next page, please. Wonderful things are passing you by. So you can see this little girl behind the window. And I don't know whether you can see clearly. There's a lock here. So the window is locked. She cannot come out. And then you can see the reflection of the outside world. Beautifully flying by. Next one. Terrible fates are inevitable. So you can see the girl holding a dice. The dice means something. And then at the end of the path, you can see this metallic monster waiting at the end of the path. So it doesn't matter whether she throws the dice or not. She has to move on because it's inevitable. Next one. Sometimes you just don't know what you are supposed to do. So it looks like she's having this path, like a clown. But not really a clown. There's some other objects or animals standing beside her. So you see here, well, it's not clear, but you can see a lot of people wearing hats down here, looking up. So it's a stage, but she didn't know what to do. Okay, next one. Or who you are meant to be. Now you can see the little girl drawing something. Obviously drawing herself, because you can see the hairstyle, the body shape. But then you exit something. And you have a draw yourself from the back. I don't even know what my back looks like. How can you draw the back? Isn't there something? So definitely there's some message she's trying to convey. Go on. Or where you are. So this little girl sitting there in a place like Mars, I don't know, outer space place. So you don't know where you are here. And when the day comes to, and the day seems to end the way it begins. But every day it's like this endless circulation of hopeless impressions. But suddenly, there it is, right in front of you. Bright and something. Bright and vivid, quietly waiting. So now she's coming back to her own room. The black leaves are blonde, the sea, the leaf growing in. Next page. Just as you imagined it would.
所以我们这个小女孩她看到，她继续往下看。首先这一个图，她可以看到她在等待，她就是在等待，但是呢什么都没有发生。那再来下一张图，就是在大海中有很多巨船，那它们互相冲撞，那小女孩呢在中间载浮载沉，就是就很危险的一个状况。那下一张图是他看着窗外的美景。那这张图外面呢，也没有色，但是我们看到窗户是上锁的。那下一张图是他手中握着一个骰子。那后面呢，道路上最后在等着他的是一个看起来金属的一个怪物，所以呢，这可能也暗示不好的事情是无法避免的。下一张图我们看到他头上戴的好像是一个小丑的帽子，那他旁边有一些动物跟他一起，那好像是在那个台上有很多人，但是他有一点不知所措的感觉。接下来这一张是他正在墙上画画，那我们可以看到他画的就是他自己的身形，只不过他画的是从他背面画的。我相信我们一般人呢，可能连自己背部看起来怎么样都不知道，所以这也是他有他代表的意思。那再来是他不知道身在何处，这张图看起来好像是在外星球某个星球的表面。那最后小女孩她沉思，每天一复一日都是一样的生活。有一点点像一个无止境，然后毫无希望的一个循环。但是就在这个时候，他回到他房间，他发现一朵朵明亮的亮光，一点点色彩在他房间的中间，所有黑色的叶子现在都已经消失不见了。
So what is it about? What's this story about? Actually, there's more. When I first read the book in Australia, I was randomly picking up the book because the cover was really intriguing. Yeah, I didn't read it. So the cover was really intriguing, so I just picked it up and I read it through. And I looked at the details of the picture, the content, and I got goosebumps all over my body. And I know it's a good book. So I go back and I start to crack the code. So this is how I crack the code. I want to show you. Now go to the first page, please. So Chantal actually used a lot of symbols to represent something. So first one, the leaf, the red leaf. It starts here. What do you think the red leaf represents? Say my questions.
所以我在澳洲第一次看到这本书，从封面呢，我就深深的受它吸引。我读过了以后呢，我全身都起鸡皮疙瘩，因为我知道我刚读完一个好故事。那我们 中间书里面藏的讯息是什么？首先，我们先要看到的第一个是第一页这边有一个红色的叶子，有没有人把猜猜看它代表的是什么意思？
The red ink happens on many pages, and you can see the pages. So this is anything, even at the cover. Can you show the cover? The girl's looking down. She's in a paper boat. She's looking down and she's looking at the red leaf. So what do the red leaf stand for? Hope. Yes. You're going to go. Hope. She's looking for hope. Perfect. Now, if you can nail this, now the following page is easy. Next page. See, all these red leaves represent bad times. Doesn't matter, bad time may be long, but as long as you're patient enough, you'll come around. You'll have the hope. And just, can you enlarge it? Right above the hope, there is an egg in the red nest. So egg represents new life. So if you have hope, you have new life. It's really literally, it's clever, just clever. Okay, the next one. I wanna see it. Okay, so now I just have a gut feeling that somehow the hope is following her on every page. So I started looking for hope. Now look at this page. Is that hope? Yeah. Yeah. Next page. Do you find hope? Lower, lower. Can you show the bottom of the picture? Can you show the bottom? The light is still. I think it's somewhere here. Yeah, here. Okay. That's the red leaves hiding here. Next page. Where's the leaves? She's suffocating in a bottle. She wants to make herself a message in a bottle. But she didn't have anybody to send her out. It's like she's totally trapped. But then the red leaf is there. Okay, next page. Now the heart. She's the only one. She opened her heart, and there was a light bulb there. So she's the only one, maybe still some hope in her. But where is the hope? You need to have very good eye. Yeah. Okay, next one. Any hope? Okay, next one. Now this represents this kind of nautilus. It's a nautilus spiral represents forever. So you can see she's making marks, waiting. And all the marks covered all over this shell. And the pattern, the swirling pattern actually represents forever. This represents waiting is forever. But there's hope. Is there hope? Actually, there is. Please see. Ahead. You see it. Okay. And somehow they like to do some very messy sketches on the page. Here, where's the hope? You want to make it bigger? Somewhere wrong. This here. Somewhere here. This? Yeah. Okay, next one. So can you enlarge the log? Enlarge the log. in light, the light, not ever, the light. Yes, yes, yes. Well, because the light is too strong, but if you look at the picture, you can see a word inscribed on it called regrets. So she has regrets, and regrets somehow locks her out. And that's why she cannot go out, because she has a lot of regrets. Kind of confine her in that place. So every page. So I confirm with Jonathan, I say, I know you're hiding code on this page. And he said, you're right. That's the cracking code. That's the fun of reading. You know that somehow you have this immediate connection with the illustrator because you know what they're trying to say. Okay? And that's the depth of reading pictures. You cannot just see it without going into detail. Oh.
所以我们在每一页呢，如果仔细看的话，都可以看到它有藏一些小讯息。首先，我们知道，我们刚跟现场观众讨论，这个红页，这个代表的其实就是希望。那我们从封面一开始就可以看到往下投注视着希望。那第二页我们这个时钟，虽然一开始一天24小时里面有些时间呢是被黑色的叶子占据，但是呢，最终呢，我们只要等不够久，那它时间会重新回到希望的这个地方。大家可以看到上面有一个红色的鸟巢，里面有个蛋，它可能象征新的开始，新的生命。那接下来就是这个我的直觉告诉我呢，这个希望其实呢是。虽然他生活日复一日看起来一样，但是希望还是伴随他左右。所以每一页我们都可以看到，在这一页后面有个红色的叶子。下一页呢，在这个巨大的生物下面，仔细找的话，发现在水沟旁边也有这个红叶。下一页它在这个瓶中信里面，它好像快要窒息了，但是因为他把自己关起来，但是又没有人可以倾诉。但是旁边在石头上也有红叶，那再来在黑暗中，这个要找的比较清楚，然后他心中还是有一点光芒。那最后下一页是在这个地方，这一组比较OK， 下一页。那他也可以看到他正在等待，每等一天就做地上对的信号。但是在最旁边，我们还可以找到红叶。那下一页，接着往下一页，然后在船在海上呢，那它也有色的代表。那最后我们在有锁的这个图，我们看到它锁其实上面写一个字，它上面写的就是“后悔”这个字，所以让这个小女孩有点驻足不前的原因呢，其实就是她心中有一些后悔的事情，然后来拖着她。我跟作者让他提过，就是说你是不是在页里面每次两间图片间都藏了这些讯息？那他表示是的。所以这就是我们阅读的时候的深度，我们有点像破解作者他后面的意义，然后进而跟作者的故事产生连接。
So that's what I like about children's literature. Always hope.
There's always hope in children's literature. Not reading all this grown-ups literature, you feel like sad, depressed. But in children's literature, you can always find hope. And that's the fun of reading picture books. So don't think picture books are Mickey Mouse stuff. They're not. Okay? Some people try to make Mickey Mouse stuff out of picture books, which really resents me. I got angry. Because when you have read so many good picture books, when you see people just make shitty picture books, you cannot help but being angry. And that's why I wanted, well, Shantan, he didn't study art.
Everything is self-taught. We study philosophy and literature. So literature makes you deep. We have to study literature, otherwise it souls. Okay, so time is up. Any Q&A, any question or feedback? I still have one book, but I don't have time to share. But if you have any question or you want to have further discussion with me, you can find me or email to your chairperson, and then they can refer your message to me. I have my Facebook. Just look for Jessie Huang or look for yeah, that's it. So any questions or feedback? Do you feel different? Before you came, you came to the, and then after you listen to me, you go, did my talk change you? One? No? 没有。对。这个书名跟作者是哪一本？刚刚那一本啊 ，Sean Tan called The Red Tree。合音出版社有翻译版，叫《绯红树》。You can look for that too. That's it. So I will be making pictographs, and hopefully in the future I have more of my own work to share with you guys. So thank you. Yeah.
I would like to ask if the person who wants to tell stories, the person has to be very good as a good comment of the picture books of the colors and the graphics or something that information like within the pictures. The person has to be very good at it, or because I work as a storyteller at public library, and I don't know if I had to be like very an expert in analyzing the pictures, the graphics, and I had to communicate with the listener, with the children. So do I have to be that kind of expert?
It's better that you have us than you don't. Because then you can really go deep. And don't underestimate kids. They know. Okay, what happened to us growing up trying to read kids is we assume that they don't know anything. The kids, they have very sharp eyes to see the details. Like in my story, 500 years later, a lot of grown-ups, after reading the story, they don't know why the tree died. But you ask kids, 80% of the kids say, I know how the tree died because they look at the picture, they find a clue. So if you cannot, elevate yourself and really look into details, it's really hard for you to communicate with your kids, and because I study children's literature, and I also study art and histories, and I'm interested in how they make picture books and how a good story is a good story. Usually people have gut feeling like, okay, this is a good story, this is a bad story. But I can tell you why they're good and why they are bad. That's what we call experts. So if you just want to be a storyteller, fine, just tell the story. But if you want to kind of form a reading group, you want to really talk a little bit deeper about the story, I think this knowledge really helps. I'm lucky, because I studied children's literature. And I know that people kind of standing on the outside, they try to get in, but they don't know how. So that's why I'm willing to share, because I know how you can analyze the book and then make it valuable. If you don't analyze it, people just look at it and then, fine, it's good. It's a story. And because I also write story, and it's helped me. I can critically criticize my own story. Like, no, this is not right. Okay, or the transition is not good. Okay, or you were too preachy, or you pretend too much. So I can kind of remind myself, like, what are you doing? You are trying to make good stories. So don't put a lot of message inside. Don't sugarcoat your message. You just want to tell a good story. And also, as an illustrator, you have to know why you are using this color instead of that color. Okay, why you leave some blank, why you want to fill out this page. So you have to be conscious of what you do. So if you can go over the just like gut feeling, yeah, I can see it's a good story. But if people ask you why it's good, normally people cannot say, cannot really put their finger and say, well, I think this part is good. And it's, well, again, I have to say I'm lucky because years of training getting to this stage. Reading some papers really works, okay? Some research papers really works, and see how children perceive picture books. Because I have read a lot of paper, academic paper, they really do research on children and see how children react to picture books, and that also helped me too. So it's a kind of never-ending study. And the more you know, the more you feel like, oh, I'm really not good. I have to really read more. And that's how you enjoy more, actually. Yeah. And also suffer more, because when I see that work, it's just like, oh, but it's kind of two sides of the same sword. You just have to deal with it.
I think we have a similar question from our YouTube chat. We want to know how we can get the children's big problem.
Yeah,
那你可以做一个所以简单来说，如果你要自己写一本童书的话，其实你不用成为一个专家。因为呢，我过去个人的背景，我有学习过儿童文学，所以我知道要怎么样很深层的讨论。那如果你的目的不是要成为一个专家的话，那可能你就凭着自己的直觉去创作你自己的故事。我相信呢，这会比你过度去思考，最后出来的效果会更好。写一个好的故事，当然如果是懂后面的原理，你就可以自己去批判，但是不要过度的让故事有点像在说教的感觉，也不要过度的包装。所以呢，只要像我，因为有很多年的专业的训练，我有看过很多的文章，还有学术研究，所以我知道孩子们他们是怎么样去观察这个世界。那所以我的书，我认为呢，在未来，尽管是500年以后呢，其实他们看图呢也可以看得懂。所以总而言之，想要去做方法很多，不用成为专家，也可以马上着手进行。
This is my own work, my own illustration. So I illustrated mine myself. I told Rick, I love the tree so much. I simply cannot give this to any illustrator. It's mine. It's my tree. So I have to illustrate it. And then when I illustrated it, I actually like Shantan. I hide a lot of things there that grown-up usually don't see. It's children who can see this. Like after you read through the pages, you do ask students, I have to repeat myself again. Even an actor who added my story, I asked the actor, do you know how the trees are? The actor said no. And I said, I'm true. If the actor did not know, how can I accomplish the story? And so you have to know that you were in good hands. So that's why when I get to Berlin, I was so happy because they're really professional, and they give me a lot of suggestions in terms of illustration. The storyline they can change the word, not even the word, only the picture. So I have to revise some pages, but I really enjoy the process of creating and encoding some sequence inside, waiting for the reader to find. So if you can just get a book and read it, and I believe you will love it. Yeah. I think I'm not sure that you will. Yeah, thank you, Professor Paul, for very inspiring talk. 好，各位大家好。今天非常荣幸为大家介绍东吴英文系孙克强教授 Professor Jonathan Clausen。孙教授是我当年进东吴任教师的系主任，在他任内成立了台湾儿童文学学会，并且担任第一任的理事长。我印象中，他就是一位非常符合英文系教授形象的老师，跟系主任，文质彬彬，而且待人接物非常和气善良。他在系上教授的是儿童文学、圣经文学，他的课也非常受欢迎，而且是非常多同学的偶像。那几年前，我因为想从他身上挖一点东西，所以就是邀请他加入系上老师组成的读书会。那因为孙教授的关系，我开始接触到儿童跟青少年文学当中图像叙事的部分。那对于我这种长期埋首非常枯燥的学术书籍的人来说，算是大开眼界。那大开眼界的原因不是只是因为绘本通常很精美，而是就是我认识到图像跟文字当中是可以呈现出来的对话跟张力。绘本的世界非常吸引人，而且绝对不是一般人想的，就是小朋友的读物。通过孙教授的介绍，我了解到绘本的主题可以无所不包，像是移民、甚至创伤等等的。所以我个人是非常期待，就是孙老师之后可以在系上开就是绘本相关的课程。除了教学跟研究之外，孙教授其实热爱户外活动，尤其是自行车。那跟大家说一个小故事。就是有一天我出门的时候，我在我家那边等公车，就是我是住在南港中研院附近，突然就是我就远远看到一辆自行车就是骑过来，然后上面的骑士在跟我挥手，那我就非常的纳闷，因为我想说我的朋友都跟我一样是非常无趣的书呆子，那中间应该不会有人在外面晃来晃去骑着自行车。后来等到车子骑比较近之后，我才发现说原来他就是孙教授。那孙教授热爱骑车，他的手受伤之前，每天要绕台北市一大圈，才会到学校来上课。所以同学们如果有早八或早10的课，很多人可能跟我一样，早上都还在昏睡的状态。那可是孙老师已经是环台北一圈，然后精神抖擞的坐在教室当中等大家来上课。孙教授对于自行车的爱可以说长达半世纪。我不晓得这样会不会把我说完。他高中时第一份工作就是在自行车行打工。当时他想完成的壮举是从芝加哥骑到加州，那不过就是后来好像还是改搭长途客运。尽管第一次的长程挑战是失败的，他对于单车的热爱也没有减少。平日他会尽可能用单车代步，也跟他的夫人一起完成数次单车环岛的旅游。而且他曾经做过一件很厉害的事情，就是一日双塔。你们知道什么是一日双塔吗？就是在24小时之内，从北部的富贵角灯塔骑到南部的鹅船比灯塔。他曾经完成过这个壮举，真的是非常厉害。那所以今天他要为我们介绍绘本中的单车，我想这是他基于对于单车的爱。那所以我相信大家跟我一样非常的期待。那现在就让我们用最热烈的掌声欢迎 Professor Clausen。
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you, Duran, and thank you, Ivy and Eva, for helping me with interpreting. Okay, let's see. This one goes next. Okay. So, what do you think Duck is thinking? Well, oh. Wait, am I supposed to control? I have it on here. Okay, sorry. All right. Okay. So what is Dr. thinking? Okay. What is this? Can I ride it? What can it do for me? So what I'd like for us to do is to all think like duck this evening and think about what is the bicycle good for? What can we use it for? Have his curious mind and his intrepid personality, as you will see he has in the later book. And think about what meaning does the bicycle have in these books that we're going to be talking about. What does it do for the characters who ride them? Before we get into the picture books, I'd like to talk just a little bit about the bicycle, especially 4 points, okay? Let's see, the first point is that the bicycle is a modern invention. Okay, so it is invented, the modern bicycle of 1885, there's a picture of the first one. But it's a product of modernity, which is important, and I'll be talking a lot about modernity today. Modernity is this time that we're living in now, of a lot of technology, kind of a fast pace of life, lots of innovation and new things, technology. But it also means a lot of problems, such as global warming, medical problems, health problems, pollution, okay? But also, the second point, bicycles are a machine that empowers movement, okay? And they are literally empowering. Unlike a motorcycle or a car, bicycles depend on the power provided by the rider, and they multiply it. So they are literally empowering. With less energy than it takes to walk, a bicycle can move a person faster, farther, and quicker with the same energy. Bicycles are a consumer item. They're bought and sold. Some people make huge amounts of money from bicycles. And so bicycles are something that's not just innocuous. They're designed to appeal to people. And they're advertised and sold, and not just only for the good that they do for the people, but also for helping some people become wealthy. And finally, they're versatile. Almost anybody can ride a bike, young, old, and male, female, anywhere, on roads, on paths, and so on.
今天非常谢谢主任温暖的开场，谢谢今天的投影员。那我想带大家看一下这张图，他是在想什么呢？你们觉得怎么样？这是什么？它可以骑它吗？所以我今天希望能够带领观众以鸭子的角度去思考，激起你们的好奇心跟勇气，来看看我分享的几本绘本。那想要带领大家思考几个问题，就是说，在这几本绘本当中，脚踏车代表什么样的意象？那这几个主角骑了脚踏车之后，对他们的人生带来什么样的改变呢？ We move to the next slide, please. 下一页，谢谢。然后接下来会讲到几个跟今天脚踏车息息相关的一些特色。第一个就是脚踏车，它是一个现代社会的一个产物，它可以帮助我们解决很多科技相关或是交通的问题。但同时呢，它也存在现在这个概念也存在了许多问题。 比如说像是全球暖化、都市拥挤，或是空气污染，或是生活步调等等。所以脚踏车在这样的现代社会当中，可以帮助我们解决许多问题。第二个，它是一个能够放大脚踏车骑士或者说我们的一个装置。它是一个仰赖我们人自身能力跟动力去进行移动的一个装置。我们可以用更少的力量，相比走路，我们可以跑得更快，跑得更远，且跑得更久。所以简单来说，它就是一个赋予人们更多权利跟能力的一个装置。第三个，脚踏车是一样消费性的商品，很多人通过卖脚踏车来赚钱，那也很多人买脚踏车。不过，脚踏车并不是只有注重功能性而已，许多厂商都会给它造型上进行更多设计，让它看起来更吸引人，所以消费者会去买它。 再来就是它是一个非常万用而且老少咸宜的一个产品，无论几岁或是你是男生女生都可以骑脚踏车，而且骑的地点不会受限制。
So in the early days of bicycling, in the late 1900s. We can see this advertisement, and these words written later, but about this time, saying the two-wheeled freedom machine enabled flexible mobility at an unprecedented speed, surpassing the average pace of horses, and thus involved not only a new experience of time and space, but also self-autonomy and a widening of one's horizons. And in this picture, you can see the joy of having one's horizons widened so much, it takes people out of the world and up to the moon.
可以看到这张广告，就是以前早期脚踏车啊刚开始流行起来的时候，会带给人们非常多的快乐。就像这个广告中的这个女生一样，她就像是快乐到快要上月球一样。所以有一个脚踏车历史学家曾经说过，脚踏车可以帮助我们来去自如，而且跑得比马还快。它不只突破了过往时间跟空间的限制，也让我们拓展我们的视野，以及有了更多自我自主的空间。所以我今天的主题想要呼应这个学者的概念，来证明说，这过去脚踏车的意象一直都跟学者提到的很类似，这个都没有改变。
Okay, so this idea that bicycles empower people to such an extent that it's like traveling to the moon is still true today. Still, beautiful young ladies are using a bicycle to travel to the moon.
所以看到这张图，就可以看到这个小猪已经骑到月球上了，就有点呼应刚刚广告中那位女士的那个形象，就是说今天这个科技我们都可以上月球了。那在绘本当中也是一样，都可以骑到月亮上面。
And who can forget this, one of the most iconic scenes in movie history, Steven Spielberg's E.T., where the boy saves E.T. magically flying in front of the moon and taking the alien back home.
所以你们当中一定也看过这张图吧？这就是经典电影《E.T. 外星人》当中，这个小男孩带着外星人一起上月球的经典画面。
All right, so here is our outline for today. What good are bikes? So there are 5 sections. In each section, I'll talk about 2 or 3 picture books. Okay, so what good are bikes? The first section, kind of a broad picture. Second, what does it mean to become a cyclist? Third is entering modernity and how bicycles enable that. 4, responding to modernity. And 5, rejecting consumerism. And then our conclusion.
这就是我今天想要跟各位分享的几个主题。那每个主题底下，我都会用2到3本绘本来解释这个概念。第一个呢是脚踏车到底有什么特色？它到底赋予了人们什么样的权利呢？那第二个是成为脚踏车骑士。这些脚踏车的绘本中的主角是如何学怎么骑脚踏车，以及他后来的人生有什么改变。第三个是走进现代世界。第四个是在现代生活。最后一个是现代冲突。
I'm not sure that this is working. I don't know if I'm turning it or somebody else is turning it. If I push it, nothing happens. Am I controlling this one or is somebody else? I can't tell. I am? Okay. It doesn't feel like it. Okay. So, what good are bikes? In these 2 books, we get a kind of a broad picture. The first one, Curious George Rides a Bike. It shows us something about the power-giving potential of bicycles. And in Duck on a Bike, we can see a lot of responses to riding a bicycle.
第一个主题，我要带大家以一个比较宏观的角度来看待脚踏车绘本。第一本左边这一本就是我们的好奇头乔治骑脚踏车，它在我们大家用宏观的角度来看，脚踏车可以赋予人们什么样的权利？那第二本右边这一本呢是骑脚踏车的鸭子，它可以反映出了许多当代民众如何看待脚踏车的许多反应。
I don't think I'm doing it. I think somebody else is doing it. Because I push it like 6 times and finally changes when I don't push it. This is, no, I would like to do it. It's just that if I push the button, it doesn't. Because I think that's what they're doing already anyway. Okay. Just to be clear. All right. So in Curious George rides a bike, all right? We're looking at, we can see 12 different ways the bike is empowering the monkey. All right, so first, Curious George gets a brand new 2-wheeled freedom machine from the man with the yellow hat. And that is exactly what he has always wanted, he says. And so he calls it so that is an object of his desire. And okay, and click. Okay, I love the way the man with the yellow hat gives George this empowering travel machine, and then tells him to stay close to home. Right? You give somebody a machine to travel somewhere, and you tell them to stay close to home. It's not going to work, especially with a curious monkey. So the man leaves, and can you click it? Okay. Click. Click. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I said, I'm sorry. That's my. Okay. All right. So he does tricks, and one of the first things he does is tricks, and so that's one of the things that bicycles enable is the ability to do these tricks, doing wheelies, riding backwards, all these different things. And then he meets a boy with newspapers, and he's able to travel through the town. Okay, next one. Okay, and you can see everybody's looking at him, and he's being productive. So he's being productive, he's delivering newspapers, and then you see the stream in the distance, and he's going to explore. Okay, so bicycles enable exploration. Next one, please. Okay.
所以先带大家来看第一本绘本，就是这个好奇猴乔治。那它主要带给这只猴子12项不同的赋权作用。我们先来一个一个带大家来看。第一个呢，它就是这个猴子从它另外一个戴黄色帽子的男人那边拿到了一辆脚踏车，所以它这个是满足他的一部分的顾虑，让他一直想要一台脚踏车。那第二个就是他拿到了脚踏车之后，他就尝试做了几个脚踏车的特技，那这也是一个脚踏车独有的一个特征，就可以做特技。第三个呢，就是他后来见到了一个送报纸的小男孩，那个小男孩就问他说要不要帮他送报纸啊，所以他接着他就可以做这个，他离家之后第一份工作就做了这个能够创造生产力的一个工作。最后接下来这个呢，就是他送报纸送到一半，他突然看到一个小河。他就起了好奇心，想要去跨过这条小河去看对面有什么东西，所以脚踏车就给了这个猴子能够探险的这个能力。
And then as he travels, he meditates, so he's thinking, he's contemplating. The bicycle helps with that. Then click, you can see he has an accident and he crashes. And so there's danger he has to deal with. And now he has a messed up front wheel. He has to be resourceful. And he figures out that he remembers he can ride and do a wheelie. And so he does that. And then eventually he meets people from the circus. And they take him to the circus and they fix his bicycle.
接着呢，他就在骑脚车的过程当中，他脑中在思考，不断好几个问题，这样所以可以激发他的思考能力。 结果他在路上呢又撞到了一个小石头，所以他的前轮就坏掉了。这也提醒了我们在骑脚踏车在路上的时候，你一定会遇到某些危险跟危机。接下来呢，因为他的前轮坏掉了，所以他就利用了他当初做脚踏车特技的这个能力，他就用后轮这样子骑单车，所以他解决了这个问题。最后他有遇到一个修脚踏车的技师，帮他修复了这个问题。
And then at the circus, because he has a bike and he sees the bear get stuck in the tree, he's the first one able to get there and he becomes a hero.
所以他在后来在路上呢，他就看到了一个小熊困在树上，他就借由他自己的脚踏车的这个能力跟这个装置呢，去解救了这个小熊，就变成了英雄。
Then he goes to the circus and he performs. He gets special clothes. Everybody knows bicyclists like to wear special clothes. And he performs in front of people, becoming a spectacle that people enjoy watching.
接着他到了一个马戏团，那马戏团的人就给他一套特别的衣服。大家都知道，脚踏车骑士们都很喜欢穿他们的专有的脚踏车装。所以他在马戏团表演的时候，就吸引了众人的目光，就变成那个比较最稀奇的那个事物。
And finally, in the end, you can see something kind of sad. The bicycle is put into the car and they drive home in the nasty, polluting automobile. So what does this say about the bicycle's value as transport? But maybe it's more about George's curiosity and how it needs to be contained. It seems the bike's transgressive potential needs to be checked. The carnival is over, regular life is back, and George's curiosity is under control.
最后可以看到这张图，就是故事的结尾，乔治跟他的脚踏车都一起被载上车送回家。那这个车子可以看到它冒了非常多烟，所以它是原本一个比较环保的脚踏车，被一个充满排放废气的车子载回家。所以我觉得这个不算什么太好的结局，因为对乔治来说，冒险结束了，他的好奇心被收起来了，他又回到了原本比较好奇心被压抑的生活。
So you can see these 11 different aspects of bicycle empowerment have been developed in this book, have been shown. And George indeed has, through these ways, experienced both his time and his place in new ways, going to new places. His horizon has been widened. He's traveled farther and done more in a small amount of time than would be possible. And he, small monkey child, is able to do all of these things on his own. In fact, maybe he has so much autonomy that needs to be contained, and that's why the man puts the bicycle back into the backseat of the car.
所以这前面提到的11个父权作用，在绘本当中都有呼应到。那最后呢，呼应到刚刚前面学者讲的，他也体验了，他突破了以往时间跟空间的限制，有了全新的体验。他透过冒险旅程去到了不一样的地方，去到更远的地方，所以他拓展了自己的视野。那在这个冒险途中，他也有了更多自我自治的的能力，因为他是一个小猴子嘛，又是一个小孩，所以他能够透过脚踏车拓展自己的能力，有更多能力去办到这些事情。但是在最后，他的好奇心被收起来了。这或许是暗示他可能年纪太小了，还没有办法有这个能力去驾驭这样子的脚踏车的父权的能力，所以可能需要等他长大之后才有办法重新再获得这些能力。
Right now, let's look at Duck on a Bike and responses to cycling, as shown in this book. And in Duck on a Bike, we can look at the big picture of bicycle empowerment from the perspective of onlookers. So one day, down on the farm, Duck got a wild idea. I bet I could ride this bike, he thought. But he waddled over to where the boy parked his bike, climbed on, and began to ride. At first, he rode very slowly and he wobbled a lot, but it was fun.
接着我们看到这一本是骑脚踏车的鸭子这本绘本，那它主要阐述的是一样是父权的概念，不过主要是重点放在许多人们对脚踏车这个概念许多不同的常见的反应。所以我们绘本看到故事上面说，某天在农场上，这只鸭子突然突发奇想，他说：“我要来骑脚踏车。” 所以他摇摇摆摆的走向这个脚踏车，爬上去开始尝试怎么骑。一开始呢，他摇摇晃晃，骑得很慢，但是鸭子觉得这非常好玩。
So in the next pages, we see him go past all the different farm animals, and all of them make their barn animal sound. And the narrator helps to interpret those sounds, telling us what those animals are thinking, and they're all commenting on Duck's bike riding. So, for example, Cow says moo. What he thinks is, that's the silliest thing I've seen. And don't bicyclists sometimes look silly the way they're riding? Sheep thinks he's going to hurt himself, talking about the danger of bicycles. Dog thinks, what a mighty neat trick. It's cool, special riding a bike. Cat is just the opposite, what a waste of time. Horse thinks, not as fast as me, talking about speed, competition, racing. Chicken is a chicken. Watch where you're going. He's afraid bicycles are bothering him. Goat, I like to eat it. Talking about consuming, wanting the bicycle itself. Pigs, duck is a show-off, kind of arrogance. And mouse, I wish I could ride a bike, an object of envy. So this book pretty well sums up a lot of the contemporary attitudes of people riding a bicycle.
接着，鸭子呢就骑着它的脚踏车绕过整个农场。那每经过一个动物，动物们都会发出各自的叫声。那在这个绘本这边，作者也很贴心的帮读者们翻译了各个动物他们心里的想法。那我们就来看看他们怎么想的。第一个牛说，他觉得这实在太蠢了，他觉得鸭子这骑脚踏车是一个很蠢的一件事情。那的确，脚踏车骑士就有时候就会给我们这种印象，说他专注的骑的时候看起来蛮傻的。下一个羊说：“你小心啊，会不会受伤？”所以它代表的意思是说，骑脚踏车还是有它的风险存在，你还是有可能会受伤。接下来狗说：“狗说是好酷的特技。”所以有人觉得脚踏车是一个很酷、很特别的一项事物。接下来猫就持相反的态度，他说：“这完全就是浪费时间。”再来马说，马觉得他自己一定可以跑得比这个脚踏车还快。所以这就代表说，有人喜欢竞速，还是有比赛这个感觉。接下来鸡呢，他就是看到这个脚踏车之后说：“你要注意前面啊，因为他觉得脚踏车可能会挡到别人的路，是给别人带来困扰等等。”接下来山羊说：“看起来好好吃哦，因为他觉得脚踏车本身是一个很吸引人的一个物品。”接下来猪就说：“鸭子要炫耀啦，因为他觉得觉得这个脚踏车是一个稀有物品，他觉得他在炫耀，觉得他摆出比较高傲的态度。”那最后老鼠就说：“我也想要像鸭子一样骑脚踏车。”这就是代表了有人还是会觉得这个物品很吸引人，他也想要拥有它，有这个嫉妒的心情。所以从这些动物的反应，我们可以看到，许多人都会对于脚踏车有不同的反应。那其实跟130年前人们对脚踏车的反应其实是很类似的。
Okay, so let's talk about the pictures just for a moment. In Curious George Rides a Bike, most of the pictures were looking kind of at the middle of distance at George, and maybe looking a little bit down at him. Here, we're looking at Doc from a low angle. And what these low angles do, we can see from Crescent Lewin's description in the Grammar of Visual Design. Low angles generally give an impression of superiority, exaltation, and triumph. And we can see Duck does look triumphant, doesn't he? And he's exulting in his power. And the chicken is being a chicken and runs away.
所以在第一本提到的《好奇头乔治》的绘本里面，图片叙事大部分是一种中距离由上往下看的这个视角呈现。 但是我们可以看到，像画面上这一张鸭子追的这个鸡的图，读者就是由下往上看的这个视角，就像它是被踩过去的样子。所以我们可以看到，这样子的仰望的低视角，可以让画面的主角呈现一种比较优越感，或是高高在上的姿态。
And what's interesting is this picture is a lot like a 19th century scorcher. The same kind of attitude, the unrestrained demon of the wheel. Now look at his face especially. This face is called bicycle face. And it's the clenched jaw and the bugged out eyes that at the beginning of the bicycle, many doctors really thought people could get bicycle face and their face would permanently be changed.
所以其实刚刚上页的这个图片跟现在我们这个图片当中呈现的脚踏车骑士的意象非常类似。它就是19世纪我们当初称这个为疾驶者的概念，就是描述那些脚踏车骑得很快啊、横冲直撞的这些人，你看到底下的这些马啊、行人啊都被他碾过去，或是要四处逃散。所以我们可以仔细看一下这个脚踏车骑士脸上的这个表情，这就是我们在描述脚踏车骑士在骑脚踏车的时候脸上的那个表情。那我们可以看到他眼睛凸出来，然后手指很紧的握着那个脚踏车的手把。那当初甚至有医生就说，如果你骑脚踏车的话，你可能就会得到这个脚踏车骑士的表情。
Now look here. Now all the animals are riding bikes, and they have decided that Duck's idea was a good idea.
所以我们看到这一页呢，就画面是一个比较平行的视角，感觉读者是在参与其中一样。所以这个时候，这个画面当中的动物们都会觉得说啊，鸭子当初那个骑脚踏车的主意真不错啊。
So what good are bikes? Well, they bring freedom, self-reliance, and joy. They're empowering and they're fun.
所以脚踏车呢，它其实是可以带给人们更多权利的一个装置，而且它非常好玩。
Right, now I'd like to talk a little bit about becoming a cyclist. Okay, and this we'll look at 3 different books: Born to Ride, or A Story About Bicycle Face, The Little Pig, the Bicycle, and the Moon, which we saw a picture from earlier, and Joseph's Big Ride, which is about an immigrant coming from Kenya to the United States.
接下来想要带大家进到第2个主题，就是成为脚踏车骑士。第一个绘本是为骑而生，它就有点呼应到我们刚刚在讲说骑脚踏车表情的那个概念。那第2本小猪、脚踏车跟月亮，则是在描述主角小猪因为骑脚踏车之后发掘自己的潜力。最后一本乔瑟夫的脚踏车大冒险，就是在讲说一个原本住在肯亚的难民小孩，如何借由骑脚踏车这件事情来突破自己的人生。
They say you never forget how to ride a bike. Okay, so, right, you never forget to ride a bike. Bicycling, learning to ride a bike is procedural memory. It's something you learn and then you don't ride a bike for 20 years, you go back on a bike, you can do it. And so, Jody Rosen has said these things about becoming a bicyclist. There are few transitions in life more abrupt and definitive. You're not a cyclist, then you are. And then the second one here, the first ride, usually a child, enacts a flight from the clutches of adult caretakers when the kids pedal away from the grown-up who has been steadying the bike with a grip on the underside of the saddle. Now, in the books we're looking at, these 3 books, there are no adults, but the idea is the same, that there's a flight from the clutches of something holding the people back. And this is a huge idea. It's a change, and in these books, the changes that the kids go through are changes that reflect big changes in society or big changes in ideas.
所以我们谈到骑脚踏车的时候，它是一个你学过就不会忘记的技能，就像是大脑的程序记忆一样。你一旦学了怎么骑脚踏车，经过20年，就算你20年都不骑，你再度跨上脚踏车的时候，你还是一样会骑它。所以就有学者说，人的一生总有几个决定性的转折点，学会骑脚踏车就是其中一项。你原本没有接触过脚踏车，你不会骑，突然之间你就学会了。所以，带到第二个概念就是，小朋友学骑脚踏车之后，随着孩子越骑越远，家长将原本扶着后座的手逐渐松开，就象征着孩子正逐渐脱离家长的支持跟照顾。在我们等一下看的这几本绘本里面，其实没有成人的角色在里面。那同样的，我还是想要强调这个概念，就是说，他还是在骑脚踏车的过程当中，逐渐摆脱过去的束缚跟依赖，并拥抱新的自由、自立跟更多的可能性。
Bicycles are really closely connected in Europe and in America with the women's suffrage movement, the women getting the right to vote. And it was strongly connected to bicycles. So that's what this book is dealing with. And we can see the omniscient, well, we can hear or read, the omniscient narrator guides readers between conversations through which most of the story is told. And it begins with the narrator telling the reader, in Rochester, New York, year 1896, girls and women lived by a long list of things they were told not to do. They were told not to vote, for example. They were also told not to wear pants or ride a bicycle. But Louisa Belinda Bellflower has other ideas. Her brother gets a bike, and she's smitten with envy. She asks him, "Teach me to ride." But what about? Joe lowered his voice. Bicycle face. It's real, you know. Everyone says so, even Dr. Brown. He says girls aren't strong enough to balance, that your eyes will bulge, that your jaw will close up from the strain of trying, maybe forever. Belinda considers this. She's nervous, but then she declares, "I was born to ride." And she tries and fails many times, falling in front of neighbors again and again.
就在西方的脚踏车绘本当中，其实许多的概念都跟女权有关。那这本为其而生的绘本呢，是采用了旁白的方式来叙述故事。那故事一开始是这样子说的：在1986年的纽约罗彻斯特市，女性们有很多事情不能够做，她们不能够投票，也不能够穿裤装，甚至是不能骑脚踏车。但是这本绘本的主角 Louisa 有不一样的想法。当他看到他哥哥在骑脚踏车的时候，他就问他说：“可不可以教他怎么骑？”但他哥哥就说：“你确定你要有那个脚踏车骑士的表情吗？”医生都说这个是真的诶。所以他也跟他说，女生没有办法骑啊，因为你没有力气保持平衡，你有手会握着那个握把太紧，你之后都没有办法松开哦。但是 Louisa 坚持不懈，她还是想要骑，所以他就说她是为了骑脚踏车而生。接着，他努力尝试了非常久，也跌倒了很多次。
In the top picture, you can see her through the window, struggling to ride the bike, falling and getting up, and there she's fallen down. But in the foreground, you see the women struggling, her mother included, working in their efforts to give the right to vote to women. And the freedom she gains from riding reflects in the growing freedom for women. She doesn't fly to the moon. She gains a newfound freedom, though, that can only be expressed in similes, such as, and you can see in the bottom picture, like a bird in flight, she soared over the hill. Like a fox on the prairie, she skimmed the ground. Like a bear, she roared, "Hello, world, this is my bicycle face."
在这一页图片当中，你可以看到上面的那个图片， 路易莎在背景当中尝试骑脚踏车，也摔倒了很多次。不过在窗户里，你可以看到很多女性都拿着那个报纸，她们其实是正在为女性投票权而努力，所以这两个概念是互相呼应的。那路易莎在最后也学会了怎么骑，那她从脚踏车当中得到的自由呢，就象征着女权的提升。虽然她的自由不像前几本绘本一样有骑到月球上面，不过故事是这样子说的：她像鸟一样飞翔，像狐狸一样奔跑，也像熊一样大吼着。她的世界，这就是我骑脚踏车的样子。
With some alarm, she felt her eyes bulge and her mouth widen into a gigantic, joyous smile. So that is her bicycle face.
这就是我们刚刚提到的她，路易莎骑脚踏车之后脸上挂着的那个脚踏车的表情，所以她是挂着非常大的笑容，她很快乐。
You can see it's gone by that bicycle face, thankfully. Okay. So in The Little Pig, the Bicycle, and the Moon, we have another very spirited young lady. Her name is Rosie, and she's a pig. And she lives a mundane existence. She's quite content, play, eat, and sleep. The little pig wanted nothing more. That is, until she sees a bike, which is a pure wonder, even though it is ridden by a small, very ugly animal that has no snout or curly tail. Rosie's world has been turned upside down. She suddenly realized, because of the bike, that there is so much more to life. She thinks, and when I know how to pedal, I'll go to the other side of the world, and maybe even further.
接下来这本的主角呢是一只小猪，它叫做 Rosie。那她原本是过着一个非常平凡的生活，她就是每天吃饭、玩耍、睡觉。接着有一天，她看到了一台脚踏车，她就骑脚踏车那个小男孩被她形容是说，他是一个小小的、丑丑的、没有尾巴的生物在骑。可是当他看到他骑的时候，他觉得非常羡慕，他觉得他人生都发生了，他的猪生都发生了非常天翻地覆的变化。所以他说，如果我会骑脚踏车的话，我就可以去到世界的另外一端，甚至到更远的地方。
So riding doesn't come nearly as easy to her. It's a struggle for her to learn how to ride as well. She realizes she needs protective gear, like the helmet. She uses a saucepan. And the moon is her muse, helps her to learn how to ride. And eventually she does master the art, and she eventually rides across the world and even up to the moon. Others say that the other side of the world wasn't far enough for Rosie. And if you look up high when the sky is clear, you can sometimes see a little pig on a red bicycle pedaling on the moon. No home away home pattern. In this picture book, she has become something completely different. She has escaped her commonplace existence and become extraordinary.
对 ，Rosie 在骑脚踏车的时候，她只能够偷偷在晚上练习。那这个时候，月亮就是她唯一的陪伴。她慢慢学着怎么平衡，怎么前进，怎么踩刹车。最终，她也终于学会了。所以，这个就是一个改变她一个生命的非常大的关键。她发现了她的生命当中还有好多可能性，她可以去到非常远的另外一端，甚至是骑到月亮上面。所以。这就是代表了他借由骑脚踏车，他已经逃离了他原本平淡无奇的生活。
Now, in Joseph's big ride, the bicycle connects him to his past and guides him into his future. In the refugee camp in Kenya, where Joseph lived, he wanted one thing: to ride a bicycle. He watched a big boy named Dawu on his bike. He was fast as a lion, as tall as the sky. But Joseph is too small. He can't ride. But he can learn how to fix a bike. So he gains mechanical skills. And later, when he moves to an American city, he meets Whoosh right? The girl who rides fast on the road, and when her bike has a problem, he's able to fix it, and they become friends. They bond over the bicycle. She teaches him how to ride, and he becomes a cyclist. And there he is, right? And you can see in this picture how Joseph has replaced Dao, right? Same position. The city has replaced the Kenyan camp, and the son is in the same place, right? It's not like one is better than the other. And the next picture that goes even farther with it, and if you're going to see the next picture, you can see the Kenyan camp on the bottom on the right, which is strange because the right should be what happens next. That's like the future, you read from left to right. And putting the Kenyan camp on the right kind of destabilizes the idea that it's a place to leave and it's only in the past. And also the cycling around the moon, here we have a moon again, is cycling. There's cycles. So today's refugee may well be tomorrow's city dweller. Today's city dweller may well be tomorrow's refugee.
那接着我们看到这一本乔瑟夫的脚踏车大冒险的故事，它主要是连接了主角的过去跟未来。主角的过去在肯亚的一个难民营，那他当初有一个愿望，就是他想要骑脚踏车，可是他太矮了，所以他只能羡慕的看着他的朋友达乌骑着脚踏车。但是他虽然矮，他可以帮达乌一起修理他的脚踏车，所以他学到了一些修车技巧。那在他后来跟妈妈搬到美国住之后，他认识了一个女生，那他把这个女生称作露西，因为这个女生刚开始跟他见面的时候，他就咻的一声就骑过他身边，所以他就叫他露西。所以他就帮那个女生修理他的脚踏车。他后来那个女孩也教他怎么骑脚踏车，所以他过去修脚踏车的经验就帮助他未来能够学习的脚踏车的那个技能。所以我们看到这两张图，把它放在一起看，就会看到原来的这个城市呢，被后来的原来的这个难民被后来的城市给取代了，而原本是达乌在骑的脚踏车，后来也变成是 Joseph 在骑。那太阳呢，则维持在左上角。那进到下一页呢，我们就可以看到这个月球的意象。大家可以看一下底下的那个景色的变化。如果你知道怎么读绘本的话，就知道说左边到右是从左读到右嘛。但是左边这边呈现的是美国的这个城市，那右边的是难民营。那这有点呼应的这个循环的象征，就是今日的城市就可能是未来的难民营，所以这是呼应一个平等跟循环的概念。
For the conclusion then, from these three books, we can say learning to ride is a struggle. But the struggle to ride a bike parallels many other struggles we face in the world. The focus is on transition from one way of being to another, and the ability to ride, just the ability, is more important than where they go.
所以这三本绘本的给大家一个小总结，就是大家在学骑脚踏车的时候，一定会遇到许多波折，这些波折也会凸显了我们这些改变在人生当中以及社会上有多么珍贵。那在这几本绘本当中，强调的是你习得脚踏车的能力之后所获得的那个自由，以及对自己未来发掘更多可能性。所以脚踏车冒险究竟去了哪里，反而就没有那么重要了。
We're now talking about entering modernity, becoming a part of the modern world. We have two books that are both memories from the author's pasts. One is about 1950s Beijing, the other is 1970s Taiwan, and it's by a Chinese and a Taiwanese author respectively. And one thing that's important here is the narration. So they're both first-person narrators, but in A Bicycle in Beijing, it's a distant, engaging first-person narrator, which means it's an older person talking about his memory from his childhood. Whereas Me and My Bike, you can't tell it's a memory, but I've confirmed it by talking to getting the information from the author. He says it's his memory, but the narrator is describing the events as they happen.
接下来来到我们下一个主题，就是走进现代世界。我用了2本绘本，左边这一本叫做《一辆自行车》，它的背景是在50年代的北京。那右边这一本呢，是我和我的脚踏车，作者是一名台湾人，描述的是过去70年代的台湾。那这2本绘本，主要我想要先跟大家讲一下，就是它叙述视角的这个方式很特别。第一本书是左边的这一本，是采回故事的第一人称视角，就是作者是用现在的这个时间角度去出发，来回忆他过去的一个经验，或者是他童年故事。那在右边的这一本书呢，它则是用的是沉浸式的第一人称视角，它用现在式的时态来讲故事，就好像作者不知道剧情如何推展一样，是跟着读者一起冒险。
So when you're describing things as they're happening, you don't necessarily know how they will come out. Also, you might be a little less reliable as a narrator. And we can see in this next picture that the boy is saying, and they had to stop and wait for me. He's complaining about riding his grandfather's old clunker, which is so slow, and his friends have to wait for him. But you look at the picture, and they're not waiting for him. Right? They're waiting for the train. So what's he thinking? Well, the picture does give us some clues, but we don't know for sure. He is a little bit separate from the other 3 boys. Why? Well, we don't know exactly, but the pictures show us a different idea than what the words say. The words seem to be what he wants to tell us, whereas the pictures are showing us a little bit maybe more what is really happening in his life.
所以第2种这种沉浸式的叙述方式呢，就像是图片上讲呈现的这个画面，就是故事中的小男孩抱怨他在骑他爷爷的脚踏车的时候很难骑，他陪同老师在等他。可是这个图片上给我们又是不一样的一个叙述方式，就是因为小男孩不知道他未来就是透过这种叙事方式，他会不知道剧情如何发展嘛，所以其实我们在这个画面当中看到小男孩本身跟他朋友是比较分开来的，有点区分开来。那为什么会这样子呢？其实他也没有给出更多的解释。那从小男孩的叙述当中，我们可以知道他可能是在怪他的脚踏车太慢啊，可是事实上是不是这样呢？我们就要看故事当中怎么发展。
Now let's look at the next picture, which shows the boy in a bicycle in Beijing. And this boy is remarkably similar to Rosie. In fact, you can see Rosie, there's a picture of Rosie on the wall right next to him. He says, he also, every day is the same. Nothing is changing. It's boring. But one day, everything changed. I found a shiny green bike parked in our yard. Back then, most families were not lucky enough to have a bike, especially such a beautiful one as this. I couldn't stop staring at it. And then the next page, which is the one we see here, my friends came running. They all stared at the shiny green bike. And the idea that the bike is a modern tool is kind of funny. Maybe we can kind of laugh at the joke because now it's an old clunker. But in the picture, we see it next to a kind of archaic wheel, right? Kind of before the bicycle, this little toy wheel that they play with. And here we see the bike as a spectacle, right? They're looking at the bike, and the bike itself is amazing. And this idea of spectacle is important, and I'll talk about that next.
所以接着我们看到这一本叫《一辆自行车》的绘本，它其实跟刚刚我们提到的 Rosie 那个小猪很像。他们一开始都是过着平凡无奇的生活，直到有一天，这个小男孩在自己家的后院看到一台闪闪发亮绿色脚踏车，他就说：“哇，这个脚踏车实在太漂亮了！因为在那个年代，脚踏车是一样非常稀有的物品，只有有钱的家庭才有办法买到。那这里是。”你看他把脚踏车骑出来之后，他邻居小孩都在看他说：“哇，这个脚踏车实在太帅了。”那你看到他邻居小孩手上拿的那个生锈铁圈，你就可以呼应得到他脚踏车是一个多么漂亮、多么稀有的一个物品。
So here's a quote about the idea of spectacle. The concept of spectacle and spectacular society represents an effort to theorize the implication for capitalist society of the progressive shift within production towards the provision of consumer goods and services and the accompanying colonization of everyday life. Now, to say this in a bit more simple way, we could say, let's see. Yeah, spectacle leads to desire. Right? When you see a spectacle, you're excited by what you see, you're drawn to it. And when you're drawn to it, you might want it. And if you want it, you might be led to trying to buy it. Okay? So in the story, when the kids see the bicycle and they get used to owning things and buying things, they enter into this world of consumerism, which is also a part of modernity.
所以这是一个学者在描述现代性的概念中稀奇品的一个叙述。所谓的稀奇品，就是象征着在资本主义社会当中，我们对物质生活追求的一个提升，人们会转而寻求这些消费性商品的服务跟商品，并将这种消费的习惯融入到我们的日常生活当中。就用简单的概念来说好了，它意思就是说，你看到一样非常稀奇的东西，你会很想要它，你会觉得很期待，所以你就会有这个购买这个物品的这个欲望。那这也就是呼应到了我们在现代性这个概念当中，你想要去购买，或者说从事消费的这个欲望。
So in Me and My Bike, that boy also has this idea, this consumer desire. And so his his grandfather told him that he has this teapot, and if you rub the teapot, a genie will give you 3 wishes. So the little boy rubs the teapot, and he makes 2 wishes. His first wish is to get a bike just like this one. And he draws a picture so the genie can get it right. And then his second wish is to get it very soon. So this is very modern. To want something modern, like this is a very modern looking bike, and to want to get it fast is also that kind of idea of modernity. But what's interesting is the bicycle he wishes for is a Schwinn Stingray bicycle. And this bicycle is very special because in the 1960s and 70s in the United States, and a little bit later in England, this bicycle transformed the bicycle industry. This design was the #1 best-selling bicycle of all sorts of bicycles. This design accounted for more than 70% of all bicycle sales in North America in the 1970s. And where were the bikes made? Taiwan. And so some of those bikes leaked into the Taiwan bike shops, not very many. They're hard to see. You look at old pictures, you don't see hardly any of these, but they did exist, and that's what this boy wants.
所以在这一本《我和我的脚踏车》当中，也呼应这个消费欲望的概念。这个小男孩在一开始得到了他爷爷给他的一个据说是神奇的神灯，所以向神灯许了2个愿望。第一个就是他想要一台全新的红色脚踏车，第二个愿望就是他现在就想要。所以这也是呼应到了现代社会当中我们对事物新颖跟迫切渴望的2个要求。那小男孩许的这个愿望呢，他其实不是别的，他就是要这一台红色的脚踏车。这红色的脚踏车其实就是当时非常流行的美国版迷你车，它有图片上的这个香蕉造型的这个坐垫以及长长的手把。这是在当时1960、70年代美国销量最好的脚踏车之一，市占率高达70%。那这个脚踏车在哪里生产呢？其实是台湾，所以这个脚踏车后来也在台湾逐渐非常的流行。
Well, nobody ever looks at this bicycle, this modern bicycle, except him. He really wants it. He never gets it. But there is one picture, and only one picture, where people are looking at him, where eyes are focused on him. And it's this picture when he is being productive, right? When he's using a bicycle to work. Kind of like this one with Curious George when he's being productive. And that is what draws people's eyes and gets him noticed.
但是在这个故事当中，只有小男孩把这个脚踏车当成一个稀奇品来看待，可是他这么想要脚踏车，最后还是没有得到。我们这里也可以看到，只有在这个画面当中，他在帮他家人送东西的时候是得到大家的关注的，因为他正在从事一个有生产力的一个工作，所以居民们都用欣赏的眼光看待这个小男孩。这也呼应到我们一开始在讲好奇猴乔治那个绘本里面的时候，他在送报纸，他在创造生产力的时候，其实有吸引到大家的注意力。
Well, let's turn now to talk about how the bicycle in these books brings the kids a new way of experiencing their place. So, place, according to this is a cultural geographer, says place only achieves concrete reality when it is experienced fully, that is, through all the senses, as well as the active and reflective mind. Now, bicycling, as we've learned, already helps with these things. More specifically, this Luis Vivanco talks about the experience of riding a bike. Wind rushing through one's hair, legs pulsating, feelings of vulnerability and fear, mixed with exhilaration and a special knowledge of the spatial layout of one's environment. This is what riding a bike is about.
接下来我们一起体验绘本中的空间感。那绘本非常善于形塑空间感，那会因为角色对于空间的感觉还有认知而有所差异。那地理学家段义福就认为说，所谓的空间只有在被充分体验的时候才能成为现实。也就是说，我们要透过感官以及积极的反思才能来体验。那 Luis Vivanco 则是这样描述骑脚踏车的过程。他说，当风吹拂过头发，双腿跳动，脆弱和恐惧的感觉与兴奋感交织，这时候人们会特别了解周围的环境。
So we can see in these pictures how the sense of space, you can see them in the middle and the bottom, getting a big picture of being able to cycle farther and go around more places in their neighborhood in Beijing. But then in the next one, and I can relate to this one, getting a close-up view of the landscape and falling down and seeing it close. So cycling both expands one's sense of place and brings it close.
在两本书中，作者以两种角度来体验所谓的空间感。首先是以远景，像上方的图片一样，我们可以感受到比较宽广的空间。除此之外，在角色摔车的时候，我们好像也看到了一个特写镜头。
So in Me and My Bike, the boy has a similar experience, and you see him riding the modern bike, which is not his. His friend bought the bike, but his friend cannot ride the bike. Okay, it'll be up soon. And so the boy says, this bike is great. It's not only fast, it can be a trail bike too. And so our boy is riding a bike and he's going fast, he's using it as a trail bike, and he goes too fast, and his friend, who's actually the owner of the bike, flies off, breaks his leg. And the boy can no longer, he's banned from riding a modern bicycle. His experience with modernity has been checked. He goes fast, he went too fast. And so this one is actually a more complicated view of entering the modern world, and he realizes that speed and just going faster is not necessarily the only way to go.
有一天，小男孩借了朋友的车，载着他的朋友到处的骑车。那这时候他骑得很快，体验到了速度感，他觉得新车非常好。可是，在我们图片当中，我们可以看到他朋友其实摔车了。所以，这让我们体验到，在面对现代性的时候，快速不一定是最好的，因为我们看到他出了车祸嘛，那大人也禁止他在骑车。所以，显然这个小男孩还没有准备好接受现在的这个技术，他还要学习等待。
Yeah, there's George having a similar experience. Now, I want to mention one other point that's really interesting because it's unique to these two picture books. And I've read around 150 picture books that have bicycling in them. And I've only seen this in these two books, and that is little boys, little young children riding an adult bicycle by putting their leg through the triangle. Which you can see it. Children riding with one leg through the frame. So that's only, I haven't seen that in any other bicycle, and that's a way showing the bicycle's versatility, right? Putting the leg through the frame and riding in that way. And I never saw this, I never heard of it, I never thought of it growing up in America. Right? So it's interesting to see that in these two Asian stories. Okay, so in the conclusion,
我读了150本绘本，在这些绘本当中，我就有看到这2本有特别描述这个情况，就是我们会看到小孩他骑着大大的脚踏车，他们要把脚从车架底下跨过去才能骑。这对我来说很新奇，因为我在美国完全没有看过这件事情，但这是只有在这2本书中独有的一个奇妙的情节。
So finally, in the end, he's once again waiting for the train. This time, not next to his friends, but a motorcyclist. More advanced technology, perhaps. And there's a train going by. What does his place as a bicyclist have in the modern world? He pretends he's content with his grandfather's bicycle. He paints it, he never gets the new one, and he's happy just to have his grandfather's bicycle. Or at least he pretends to be happy. He's learning to live within limits.
在画面中，我们可以看到小男孩他又在等待火车通过。可是这一次呢，他旁边有一个现代的摩托车骑士。那小男孩虽然好像假装自己已经感到满足，因为他把爷爷的脚踏车漆成红色的，但我们知道他只不过是在自我安慰而已。可是这时候小男孩这样子的表现，也让我们知道，他知道在有限的环境下、有限的资源下，他已经拥有最好的。
So we can skip a couple slides and go to the conclusion. In a bicycle in Beijing, it presents this memory kind of as a closed and joyful and fun and important memory from the past, but it's finished. And the pronouncement on the memory is that it's good and it was fun. In Me and My Bike, the boy is in the midst of experiencing modernity, and so the reader also is more invited to question the value of the bicycle and modern ways of moving around.
在北京的这个绘本当中，作者回忆的儿时记忆是非常快乐的。那他对于现代世界的反思比较少，但我和我的脚踏车，因为它就在事件发生的当下，所以他对于新的事物或是比较快速的节奏是保持了比较怀疑或是迟疑的立场。
So the next two books talk about responding to modernity, and in the Paperboy and Ride Ricardo Ride, these books are show the bicycle less as consumer items or objects of modernity and more as ways to protest against some of the negative aspects of modernity.
接下来要介绍的2个故事呢，他们会回应现代性。在这2个故事当中，作者没有把脚踏车形塑成一个比较现代商品化的、让人惊奇的物品，而是把脚踏车描绘成一种让生活更美好的工具，进而去批评现代化带来的负面影响。
The bicycle is a mode of protest and liberation from ever-encroaching automation by way of rail and road. This mercurial device provides a means of protest in its locomotory self-reliance. In some ways, bicycles provide more autonomy than cars or trains or motorcycles because those who ride bicycles don't depend on gas stations or fuel or mechanics or high levels of knowledge or skill. They can ride easily on their own.
脚踏车可以作为一种抗争的工具，它可以是一种抗议和解放的方式，去抵抗不断自动化的铁路和公路。脚踏车这种工具呢，它还具有运动性，可以让人自立。那脚踏车其实就某种程度而言，它是比汽车或是摩托车更不具依赖性的，因为它不需要依赖化石燃料或任何的专业技能，就可以自己来骑脚踏车。
So there are a lot of theorists who talk a lot or write a lot about how bicycles can play a role in the modern world. And one of them is Ivan Illich. He points to the bicycle as an exemplar. He calls it a convivial tool. Because conviviality, or the capacity to live well, depends in part on the choices we make about what tools and technologies we choose to use. Convivial tools, like bicycles, are not like cars, right? Cars make people dependent, and they undermine people's natural abilities. Bicycles encourage people to think for themselves and be more engaged with their surroundings. Bicycles are also self-limiting, and this helps them to be more democratic. I won't read this quote.
许多的理论家都认为说，脚踏车很适合用来讨论现代性带来的挑战。比方说，Ivan Illich 就觉得脚踏车可以让我们的生活更美好。他说，脚踏车呢，可以让生活更美好的前提是取决于我们怎么选择工具和科技。因为大部分现代化的工具，比方说汽车，都会让人高度的依赖，反而破坏了人类与生俱来的能力。相反的，脚踏车反而是鼓励我们可以用自身的能力积极的参与社会。虽然脚踏车的功能相对汽车看起来好像比较局限，但它其实可以让人更自由。
The Paper Boy simply is a story of a boy who wakes up early in the morning, delivers newspapers by bicycle with his dog, goes back home, and goes to bed. That's the story. Okay, but two comments about the story from the Kirkus Review help us to see how the bike is a convivial tool in this story. Hilke, the author, may have created a throwback to a simpler time by presenting work as a desirable activity for children. It's giving the boy dignity. And also, this book is a gentle salve for the instability in so much modern life.
送报男孩这个故事，它的情节非常简单，就是有一个男孩，他每天都起个大早，带他的狗去送报纸，送完之后回家睡觉，那镇上的人才慢慢的起床。那 Kirkus 对于送报男孩有两个评论，首先，他认为作者带读者回到了一个非常单纯的时光，他把工作描绘成一个儿童很想从事的活动，而且让这个小朋友有自尊心。那除此之外呢，这本书对于生活在这个比较不稳定的现代人来说，会是一种宽慰。
So there's a quiet triumph that this boy experiences, and I'll read a little from the book. It's hard to ride a bike when you're loaded down with newspapers, but the paper boy has learned how to do this, and he's good at it. The paper boy knows his route by heart, and he doesn't ever think about the houses to pedal to. Instead, he's thinking about other things, and small things, and sometimes he's thinking about nothing at all. All the world is asleep, except for the paper boy and his dog. And this is the best time of all. This is the time when they are happiest. The modern world, with its noises, pollution, frenetic pace, and crowds, it's all asleep. The boy, if you can see in the top picture on the bottom right, he's tiny in the corner under the bright yellow moon. You can see how the yellow light from his bicycle light correlates with the bright yellow moon. And normally a corner like this, you will think that the character is lonely. But in this case, it's good. And then when he returns home with the bike clapping behind him, he goes home, he goes to sleep as the world is giving up.
我来念一段故事里的文字。小男孩背着沉甸甸的报纸骑脚踏车，其实不是一件简单的事情。但是呢，他已经练出了好身手，能够驾驭自如。害怕的路线早就被他默默的记在心里，所以他可以把心思放在其他的事情，比方说小事、大事，甚至放空也可以。送报的时间除了男孩和小狗之外，其他人都还在睡觉，而这个时间就是他们最快乐的时光。当充满噪音啊、污染的、很吵杂的现代社会是沉睡的时候，虽然男孩在月光之下看起来好像很渺小。放这样的场景会让人觉得主角很孤单，可是在这本书里，小男孩觉得这样是非常好，他喜欢这样子的时光。
We got kind of ahead of ourselves here a little bit. Go back a little bit. We're still on the paper boy. Oh yeah, good. So this last picture shows him flying up to the moon and is nostalgic, but nostalgia itself is a protest against the modern world by saying the past, simpler life was better.
这个看到小男孩飞到月亮的图片，可以让我们感受到怀旧有的时候是对于现代社会的一种批判或回应。
Now in Ride, Ricardo, Ride, our next book, it's set in what looks like World War II Italy. However, no country is named, and we see no actual soldiers, we only see shadows. So countries are not named, they're simply the shadows. Before the shadows come, Ricardo rides his father's bike with joy, and his father is always shouting, "Ride, Ricardo, ride!" And the bike brings him daily joy. Then the shadows come, and they need to put away the bicycle, hide it. The bicycle is an obvious symbol of their freedom that they're putting away until the war is over. And we talked about the low angles. Here we see high angles, and looking down at these characters. And what kind of feeling does that give? High angles tend to diminish the individual, to flatten him morally by reducing him to ground level, to render him as caught in an insurmountable determinism, which is exactly what what he's facing in these pictures.
Ride, Ricardo, Ride 这个故事呢，它设定在二战期间的法国或是意大利，但作者没有点出是哪个国家。在图片中其实也看不出来有士兵的形象，我们只看到阴影。那在阴影到来之前呢 ，Ricardo 每天都非常快乐骑着爸爸的脚踏车，那爸爸也都会很坚定他说往前骑到 Ricardo。所以在这里我们可以看到，脚踏车它其实代表的是自由和快乐。但是某一天战争来了，阴影来了。Ricardo 必须要把他的脚踏车拆掉，然后藏起来，一直到阴影离开。那我们也可以看到，下面的图片它是以比较高角度的构图，这样子的构图会让人看起来比较渺小，人就好像被压到地面上一样，让人觉得自己对于命运是比较束手无策。
So in the next pictures, we can see him reassembling the bike after the war is over, after his father has died. He does it under the protective light of the moon. And you can see him up on the hill, up higher above us. We're looking up at him. And he has more power. And then the final picture, we see him back on the bicycle, freedom restored. And he's older and more mature and has a greater appreciation for the freedom that he has and is more likely to live responsibly.
那后来的阴影回去，战争结束的时候，他又重新的组装脚踏车，也就象征着自由回来了。那画面中的构图，我们是正在仰望那个男孩，我们可以看到，当他处在一个比较高的位置的时候，他看起来比较像是一个有能力的人。那等他在骑上这个脚踏车的时候，他又能重新感受到自由。那这时候，主角也对于自由有更深的欣赏和享受。
So both of these books respond against and protest against those aspects of modernity that would take away our freedom so that we can live better. All right? And the final about consumerism. And our final section, we have three books, three bikes, not more than three bikes. Mrs. Armitage on Wheels, Sally, Jean, the Bicycle Queen, and the patchwork bike.
那最后一个章节，我们要来谈有关于消费主题。那在这个章节中，我会用3本故事书来跟大家解释，分别是脚踏车上的 Armitage 脚踏车女王 Sally Jean， 以及最后一本书拼装脚踏车。
Okay, both of these quotes are by the same author, a bicycle historian. And he says in Ride to Modernity, the practical manifestation of modernity is firmly based in industry and the production of consumer goods. And then he says in another word that bicycles are the first freedom machines, allowing riders to go where they wished under their own steam. And this continues in current modernity, spatial freedom and environmental responsibility. So In early modernity, bicycles brought freedom by providing the first ever way. Horses existed, but there was no other way for modern quick transportation for the masses to move on their own. It brought freedom by providing a way for people to move quickly where they wish under their own steam. And in the 21st century, this freedom is still available to us, and it is still useful. And now it's maybe even more useful, more relevant, because it is environmentally responsible.
那我引用两位学者的话。首先，第一位学者说，现代性的展现就是工业以及商品的制造。那第二位学者则是提到说，脚踏车它是最早出现让人可以自由的机器，它让自行车骑士用自己的能力去到他们想去的地方。而我们可以看到，在现代社会，脚踏车也是有这样子的功能，它给予我们自由的同时呢，还肩负了环境保护的责任。所以在19世纪若是如此，21世纪也是如此。我们现在更意识到脚踏车带来的好处，特别是它兼具环保的能力。
Mrs. Armitage is not environmentally responsible. The only adult bicyclist we have, and she's an example of what not to do. Anyway, she's out on her bicycle. Breakspear the dog is running alongside, and a hedgehog walks across the road in front of her, ring, ring, when Mrs. Armitage on her bell. But the hedgehog doesn't move fast enough. What this bike needs, Mrs. Armitage thinks to herself, is a horn, a really loud horn. So she goes to the horn store and she buys 3 very loud horns. And this establishes the principle of the book. Each page she has another problem and she buys or she gets another thing to put on her bicycle, including a tub with water to wash, all kinds of tools, and finally she puts up a mast and a sail, and that's too much. And it's no longer sustainable. She takes this mess and she throws it away, and she buys roller skates and starts the whole process all over again.
那 Miss Armitage 呢？她其实是一个非常不环保的例子，所以大家不要跟她一样。那 Miss Armitage 她有一天就骑着她脚踏车出门，那碰到了一只刺猬，她刚好要过马路，所以她就狂按脚踏车的铃，但是刺猬来不及跑走，所以 Miss Armitage 她就想说，哦，那一定是因为我喇叭不够大声，所以她就买了3个非常响亮的喇叭。那故事大概就是照这样子的模式进行。首先，他会遭遇到一些事情，然后他就觉得他的脚踏车装备不够，所以他就会再买新的东西。所以他装了什么工具箱啊、水桶等等的，最后甚至装了就是帆船和桅杆。那最后因为脚踏车太重了，他就翻车。所以其实我们看到，他真的是一个非常不环保的人，买了脚踏车又把它用坏，最后还买了一个溜冰鞋。
She's a wacky eccentric who ruined the bicycle by trying to improve it.
他是一个非常里外人，他不断的改装脚踏车，结果反而破坏了这台脚踏车。
Now, in Sally Jean, the bicycle queen, she was also born to ride, and she starts riding on the back of her mother's bicycle. So I guess there is another adult bicyclist. It's her mother in an earlier picture. So she grows up on a bicycle. And she rides in the back seat when she's in kindergarten. She gets her first bike, and she's very happy. I can pop a wheelie, I can touch the sky. I'm Sally Jean, the bicycle queen, just me, myself, and I. And then she grows. She outgrows this bike, and her parents are too poor to buy her another bike. She ends up going to work in a junkyard nearby, volunteering. She never gets paid in money. And eventually she realizes she can make her own bike with spare parts. So she finds old bicycle parts and eventually puts together her own bicycle made by her own hands. And then we see, once again, she is the, one more time, bicycle queen. And see how she has more developed. I can fix a flat, right? She has that ability to work on bicycles. I can race a redbird, I'm faster than a cat, she's speedy, all of these different things. And she's Sally Jean, the bicycle queen. What do you think of that? And we're all very impressed with her. Okay. And the final book.
Sally Jean 也是一个生来就要骑脚踏车的好手。她在小时候，妈妈送了她脚踏车之后，她就非常快乐。但是长大之后，因为家人没有钱再买一台新的脚踏车，所以她就自己去资源回收厂工作，领微薄的薪水。但最后她发现，其实我可以自己做一台脚踏车，所以她就有了一台脚踏车，又成为一个很快乐的脚踏车女王。那甚至呢，我们可以看到她还有修理脚踏车的能力，所以她其实是越来越有能力的。
And the final book we have is called The Patchwork Bicycle. Where do you think this story happens?
大家可以想一下这个故事的背景是在哪里？
Here, I'll give you some help. They tell us. This is the village where we live inside our mud for walls home. Is that helpful? Drawing on the dirt. It's interesting though, because look how he marks the place where he lived. It has no real meaning, right? Except maybe it does, because he's drawing on the ground or in the dirt, which is reproduced on what looks like cardboard, used cardboard, recycled cardboard, which is then reproduced on high-quality picture book paper, which is then reproduced electronically to show onto the screen. We have all these different levels of representation, but it isn't really telling us exactly. And so this book, I'd say, is very postmodern, because it's full of indeterminacy and questions, and we don't really know exactly what's going on, although we do know quite a bit. Look at this picture. Oh, go ahead.
那我们看到画面上的画技，可能其实也不一定更有同学可以猜到这个故事的背景在哪里，因为它被放到绘本上，才会被投影出来。所以我觉得这本书其实蛮后现代的，因为它讲到一些比较不确定的一些因素，让人感觉不出来这个背景到底在哪里。
Does this picture look familiar to anybody? We saw pictures like this, very similar to this a couple of years ago, especially in the Black Lives Matter protests in America. This is copied exactly on the jumping on the police car. It looks like an American city police car scene there. But then the author and illustrator are both from Australia. And then there's a reference to fiori trees in the book, which grow in Tanzania in Africa. So there's no clear idea about where it happens, except there are mud for walls homes and it's a village. Yeah.
那接下来这张照片可能会让你猜想说，会不会背景是设定在美国啊？因为它可能会让你想到过去 Black Lives Matter 这个运动。可是这个绘本的作者他又是澳洲人，那书中甚至提到一个叫做 Fury 的树，它是生长在非洲的坦桑尼亚。所以我说这本书非常后现代，就是因为它充满很多不确定、让人很困惑的因素。那除了还有比较明确的提到说，有比较破旧的房子，让我们很难猜到它到底背景设定在哪里。
So let's get to the bike. Okay. When describing the bike, the character narrator, we saw her picture there, she says it has bashed tin can wheels that winkety wonk when we speed through the fields. It has a flag that's made from a flour sack and a bell that used to be Mom's milk pot. All the parts that make up this bicycle were not originally intended for bicycles. So Sally Jean makes her own bicycle out of old bicycle parts. They make a bicycle out of random parts that aren't even originally for bicycles.
那在这个故事中的自行车呢，它的车轮是铁罐做的，它的旗子甚至是用4个麻布袋，铃铛是妈妈用来煮牛奶的锅子。所以无论是铃铛啊，或是麻布袋，这些都不是原本会拿来做脚踏车的东西，可是它都拿来做。
And in the next picture, you can see them zooming past. Right? They go through their mud for walls home, speeding through the village. And you can see how fast they're going, carrying me and both my brothers right past our fed-up mom. Right? And that's Muslim clothing, so that might also give us another idea about where or what cultural contexts are involved.
那在这个图片中，你可以看到脚踏车它飞快的穿过它的村子， 快到就是都变得很模糊。那他经过妈妈其实是一个穿着穆斯林服装的妇女，或许大家也可以透过这个线索更了解到她的背景。那妈妈看起来其实是非常不开心的。
But look at this bicycle. Does it look like the kind of bike that speeds through the fields?
大家真的觉得画面上这个脚踏车看起来真的骑得快吗？
It looks pretty heavy to me. And what's missing?
它看起来很笨重，而且是不是少了什么东西？
There are no pedals, right?
它没有脚踏车的踏板。
Which makes me think of the predecessor to the modern bicycle, the hobby horse or the running machine, these old things that had no pedals. And here we see a guy chasing a girl. Always they're doing transgressive things on bicycles.
那这其实让我想到，在19世纪出现的2轮车或是木马，他们也都是没有脚踏板的。那在这张照片当中，我们可以看到这个男生是在追女生，他其实是一个比较调皮、比较一个逾矩的一个行为。
But there's nothing better in this village than me and my brother's bike. Yes. Okay, we can see the joy that they're experiencing together. Oh, looks like they're riding a motorcycle. And then in the final picture, the next one, we can see the narrator and no words here. What's going on? Who is this narrator? Why is she smirking? What is this story she's telling us? Is this her view? Whatever it is, we know it's joyful.
那我们可以看到，虽然这个拼装车好像很不好骑，但是他跟哥哥们都觉得很快乐。那在最后也有看到这个图片上面完全没有文字，那这代表了什么？你可以想象为什么这个叙述者要笑？那难道说这个故事都是发生在他脑海当中呢？或许我们没有答案，可是我们知道故事中的角色都非常快乐。
So the conclusion for this section, we can see that although bicycles are generally a consumer product, they aren't necessarily so. And in these books, we see the absurdity or anti-consumerist messages. And Sally Jean, the bicycle queen, and the patchwork bike, these characters create their own bikes, and their resourcefulness empowers them. And there is joy, even more joy, at moving under their own power with their own creations, whether it's mostly in their mind or actually on the bike.
那最后总结这3本书可以告诉我们3件事情。第一个就是脚踏车，它可以作为一种商品，但它不一定要是一种商品。那也第二个也让我们看到了消费主义其实有时候是很失控的。那在 Sally Jean 还有 The Patchwork Bike 这2本书中，你都可以看到他们自己打造的脚踏车，他们用自己的智慧找到了快乐。这个快乐来自于以你自己的力量，以你自己的速度前进，这就会为你带来快乐。
Finally, the conclusion. In these books, bicycles offer a timely and hopeful resource for living in the modern world. Bikes offer both challenges and opportunities to their riders. These cyclists develop freedom, autonomy, self-reliance with their bikes. And importantly, I hope you noticed, this often means transgressing rules. That's something I discovered that I didn't actually expect. Almost all of these books, they go against the society in some way as they're transgressing, as they're learning, they're developing, they're also becoming independent. And finally, bicycles bring joy.
那我的结论就是，脚踏车它是一种随手可得又可以为人带来希望的一种工具。那脚踏车会为人类赋权，它让我们更有自主性，可以拓宽我们的视野。那在这些故事当中，很特别的是，它主角们都会做出一些比较调皮逾矩的行为。那有的时候打破规则，在这个过程中，我们也是在学习独立。那最后最重要的事情是，脚踏车让人快乐。
To boys and girls, to monkeys, pigs, and ducks, to people from various cultures and ethnicities, and in all kinds of situations and environments.
脚踏车在各式各样的情境，为各式各样的人类或动物都可以带来快乐。
我以前都不晓得，就是脚踏车可以传输动作。那因为我觉得今天非常难得的机会，所以我们还是虽然说时间有点晚，但是就如果大家有问题的话，我们就开放3个问题，开放3个 Q&A。那因为现场我就是比较有特权，所以我们让现场问2个，然后线上问1个。好，那现场有没有同学有问题要发问？没有吗？那线上？
Just remember about me and my body. The story about the 3 wishes. And the last picture you showed, and now I'm ready for my 3rd wish. Just curious.
Oh,
third wish.
yeah, I didn't show on the page, but I kind of skipped
My
over.
motorbike was next to him.
Right.
So the train crossed.
Oh, I can't. Yeah. He wants to, I want to get the word right here. I want to grow up fast, but not get old too soon. Which I think is perfect, because that's like, I want to have all the advantages of modernity, like we all do, all the technology and all the conveniences, but we don't want any of the problems that come with it that age us or that hurt our environment. And it's kind of impossible, right? So I think it's very contemplative.
这边观众提问问题就是，刚刚在那一本绘本《我的脚踏车》里面，小男孩有透过神灯许了2个愿望。那第3个愿望是什么呢？第3个愿望就是他希望自己能够快快长大，但是不要太快变老。那我觉得这其实是一个非常合理的愿望，因为我们都想要这些长大以后的好处，可是不想要这个现代社会带来给我们的各种问题。所以我觉得这个愿望是我们所有人都想要的愿望。
It's one of my favorite books of these, one of them, because I think it provides a lot more insight than most other children's books.
这是我非常喜欢的一本绘本，因为我觉得这本绘本带来给我们非常多的反思。
Not just because it's Taiwanese.
还有问题要问？要不是老师，这样好。Then I have one question for you. That because I'm not sure about how to define bicycle as a modern tool. Because bicycle, when you ride a bicycle, you really don't need electricity or petroleum. So, but in your discussion, it seems that you replace this transportation using in the context of modern technology. So I'm not so sure about this.
Yeah.
So can you talk more about this?
Right. So bicycles are a product of early modernity.
Right.
So they
Mechanics, but
Right.
electricity.
Right. So they're not necessarily as modern, as more modern things.
Well, I feel like that.
Right. But they are a product of modernity, and they are one of the first consumer items, which is associated with modernity. And it is a kind of machine that is linked, that's what the kind of machine and technical age is part of the modernity age. So it's very similar in a lot of ways to the camera, right? Which comes around the same time, a little bit earlier, but also is a kind of a new thing that changes the way people live and see things. And it's evolved, and the bicycles have evolved. They've been in different ways, but I would still say it's a product of modernity, but yeah, it's not something we think of as modern. And you try to improve it, and you ruin it, like Mrs. Armitage. So it is interesting because it does keep existing, like even in Taiwan with like U-bikes has really done things to improve the city. Almost everybody will agree with that. And so there's a place in the modern world, so it's kind of interesting to see how it fits in.
那我很好奇的是，您是为什么认为脚踏车是一种现代化的工具呢？因为脚踏车它其实是不用电，它只要技术嘛。 那讲者的回答是，他认为脚踏车它其实是需要技术的，它比较是属于早期现代化的一种商品，有点类似于相机的概念，它对于当时的人来说是一种比较新颖的概念。那它同时也可以改变人类的生活，那它也会持续不断的演进。
那有没有问题？没有的话，我们就没有了，确定了啊，来。
How do you cover so many parts in
Just read them and think about it. Yeah, it's funny. You know, the first thing is just the idea that it's empowering, right? Because that's what children and it's like we all want, but children usually have less power. So it kind of started with that, and how bicycles are literally empowering. They take your own power and they multiply. You know, and I thought that idea with children is especially interesting because it's accessible to children. And then you think about other things, and then I read Curious George, and I thought, wow, he uses it all these ways. That's so cool. If you think of more ideas, let me know.
为什么讲者你对这样子的主题有兴趣？然后你又从为什么能够收集这么多有关于脚踏车的绘本呢？那讲者的回答是，我觉得这个主题非常有趣，因为它带来是一种赋权的概念，就是它能够脚踏车能够透过它的这个本身的物品跟能力来赋予我们更多的权利，尤其是对于孩童来说更是如此，因为孩童是比较没有什么权利的一个年龄层嘛，所以他可以透过脚踏车来放大自身的能力，就像是我看到乔治好奇猴乔治这个绘本里面的一样，他提到很多赋权的概念。
Also, I need to say, actually, most of the ideas is not just I read books. And a lot of books about bicycles and their relevance and different theories and ideas.
所以我今天演讲的主题是涵盖部分的内容而已，那其实其他书本里面有提到过很多类似的概念。
那我们今天就谢谢森老师非常精彩的演讲。优秀的同学，大家但是我们需要骑脚踏车回家哦，自然组。
Be careful.